Welcome, everyone. This is Denise, and you're on Universal Voice Radio with Drake, Tanaath, and Sunfire. And this is our, third installment of this, I think?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, today
if we keep this up, we'll
12th.
need to make a regular feature.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so happy to have you girls with us, both of you. Aren't we, Drake? You there, Drake?
Of course
he's
I'm
on
here.
the mute button. There he goes on the mute button again.
My idea of technology is using a hammer on things that don't cooperate, and this phone's getting close.
Yeah, we won't go into that. I've had a technologically challenging day myself. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank Tanaath and Sunfire for joining Drake and myself again. And Drake, I'll let let's see. Do you want to start, or Tanaath? Do you want to start?
Well, I'd like to kind of throw a little something in the mix. I posted something because people decided they were going to be disagreeable, and that seems to be generally the case with the government. But one of the things that people have to understand is that we're coming up to change. That change is going to be extraordinary, both in our governmental systems, socially, physiologically, that means your body, and a combination of mental, spiritual. And so, you basically got all the bases, loaded with a home run hitter up. And some of what we're looking at is uncharted territory. And due to that fact, some of the information is not easily come by. To go along with that, I've been really busy. As everybody knows, I dabble in intelligence networks and things of this nature, and it's going to get real shaggy here very soon. The people who have been in charge and running things decided some time ago that our little podunk selves didn't matter. Anybody don't know about that, go out on the internet and just ask that question. The other part of it is that people have fallen into the rut and allowed people to be loose and free with what we would consider personal and private. Everybody's aware of the NSA, IRS, and all these other fun and games things. The thing about this is that one of the reasons for shows like this is to, first of all, dispel the BS rumors. There are a whole heap of differing websites, opinions, and things of this nature that basically don't amount to very much and are totally erroneous. You're not going to turn into a big green squiddy. That is not going to happen, depending on whether or not you're a bad guy. Now, bad guys, I'm not sure what they're going to turn them into. But the gist of it is multifaceted. In other words, there's several different important facets to this. The first is acknowledgement, getting your head around the idea that angels, ETs, exist. And not only that, but you get to actually ask questions of a couple of people that are actually very closely aligned with these entities. The other part is that people need to understand that this is a part, and only a part, but a very important part of the effort to free the planet. Now, I can't quite emphasize that enough. Everybody's familiar with buying guns, belonging to a militia, becoming as much self-reliant as is possible, being able to do everything on your own, survival and all this. There are several things coming I've told about. Now, that's all well and good, but here's the other part. Reaching out of the darkness, in other words, entertaining the simplistic idea that may be, and trying to learn a little something about that, is much different when you're learning the truth than it is when you get this gobbledygook from varying other places. One of the main things I've tried to do is make sure that the information supplied, either on this particular Wednesday show or the weekend Sunday update deal, as being very accurate, real information. You'll see and you'll notice I haven't posted about this show yet. There's a reason for that. That's coming. The posts, though, that have been put out are a combination of minor news items that can have critical impacts. I told everybody about Cyprus coming 2-3 weeks before anything was done officially. It came about from a meeting that was a month earlier than that. So you got about 2 months. Then you've got this meeting of international bankers, and I mean all of them that were of any importance at all, representing a variety of different institutions. They met in Europe trying to figure out how to separate the public and private debt. Reason for that. You've had meetings of others that are diametrically opposed to alleviating us of any obligation whatsoever, especially they would prefer that we may remain stupid, nose to the grindstone, barefoot, pregnant, etc., in terms of their little slave ideology. Now, you can have a very nice rut. You can have the new car, the nice family, the great house, beautiful position, making all that cash, and yet you're still caught right dead in that rut. Now, one of the things I've stipulated in trying to free people's minds to the fact that there may be something more to what's going on than they think, and some of it might be pretty far out or extraordinary. That effort continues. The reason for this show is twofold, and only twofold. First of all, absolute truth. These are people that actually deal with it, as I do. I'm involved. Second part of it is this. You want the information to come from the horse's mouth. Eventually we will have other people join us, hopefully. We're working on that. As these things come about, you're going to be extraordinarily surprised. Yes, I know. There's a lot of people out there who are affiliated with other groups, have their own ideas about what is and what is not, what should be done. There has been many freeing of planets. There have been many revolutions, as we know, right here on this planet. The freeing of planets, there's been many. The revolutions have been many. There are certain parts of it that if you do it correctly, they come out right. If you don't do it correctly, you get an awful mess. Sometimes horrendous. Sometimes everybody gets wiped out. This is not what everybody wants. I would like to have a nice, long, ET length lifestyle, just out of curiosity. Kind of nosy and curious, and I want to know what's going on, and I'm just into everything. So that puts me in a position of wanting to make sure that things come out right. Several reasons for that. The living entity Gaia, better known as Mother Earth, or the planet, needs to go through this as smoothly as possible, just as we do. The living entities on the planet have a determining factor in terms of how smooth that transition is. So, to take the nightmare out of things, reduce the paranoia, and obliterate the fear, you flip the light on and watch cockroaches run. This is basically what is being done here. Nothing real complicated, just simplistic outing of information. And my hope, and this is my hope, if somebody has a question that's convoluted or they want to keep it as private as possible, fine. Send us an email. We'll see about it. I do not, and I don't know anyone who does, have the ability to see to individual requests very often. I wish that were different, but the manpower is not there. The people who know how to do what is needed are not available. They're busy already fighting the battles. Now, here's the other part. Everybody thinks this is going to be a golden era, a gaga land where you sit in your lotus position on the front lawn and go, that will come eventually for some people. However, in the meantime, we've got rather insidious, nasty whatevers out there that do not have our best intentions in mind. They want to see us stay in the rut, and this is the far out part, they would like to fill it in with some dirt just to make it difficult to walk. So you have to understand that in some cases, and everybody's run across a hard head, that absolutely positively will not change their mind no matter what happens to them, no matter what is presented, no matter what the experience is that comes about. Some people are just like that. That's all there is to it. No big deal. However, when you are dealing with something that's adverse or against or opposite our existence, it starts getting serious. It becomes critical that you handle things correctly. And the information that's given to the general population so they know about some of this has to be correct. So what we would like to do is make sure that, there's some questions that are very basic, and they have not been asked and openly presented in terms of answers. That's always going to be the way of things. If you are serious about trying to get yourself together in terms of understanding spirituality, and you got belief systems out the wazoo, everybody's talking a little bit different tale. If you want to know the truth and you want to really find out about it, I suggest you get my book. It's on the website. It gives you some of the very basics. It does not direct you in any specific manner of doing things. It gives you all of the options pretty much. Sometimes people automatically fall over things. Most people have to work at it a little bit, and some harder than others. The ideology here is to wake you up to the facts, let you know how things can work, and it's a strictly simple mechanical kind of hit the nail on the head with a hammer. Nothing real extraordinary. Some of the concepts are difficult to get your head around, but they're also stated simply enough, anybody can do it. So what I'm looking to do is not direct this in any way, shape, or form, but just to give an introduction, an interlude, and some preparation for what you might be wanting to look at. And with that, I would like to let Sunfire and our other guest elucidate to what they feel about everything, and maybe we can go into questions shortly after. What y'all think?
Thank you, Drake. I think that's a decent idea.
That sounds good to me.
So have you guys got any kind of introductory thing that you would like to present, or did I do enough of it?
I think you did a pretty good job there, Drake. I think we can probably get to the questions. I think anybody who's joining us for this third show in a row probably knows who we are by now. If not, the shows are in the archives.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get it. Let's get to
We'll give a quick recap. I'm Tanaath of the Silver Legion. Sunfire is a diplomat with the Galactic Federation of Planets.
Yep.
And these are people I work with, guys, in case anybody don't know that.
Absolutely. And Sunfire, if you will talk closely into the mic, because sometimes we have a little bit of trouble hearing you real clearly, okay?
I will do my best.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll go ahead and get started, and I may have to step away for momentarily when my dinner is delivered. But if that's the case, we'll play a song, and I'll just, get my dinner delivered. Okay. All right. If we weigh little, what about the weight of someone's arm around your shoulders, or of their body on us, or the feeling of lifting a child? And what about hugs when we ascend? Will our touch go through the other person? What about lying in the grass in the sun and feeling the weight of our body on the earth? Will we be weightless?
You won't be weightless. You'll still have some mass. You'll still be made up of matter. Matter itself will be made up differently from what it is now. It will have a different density. You will still be able to touch, to feel, to enjoy the grass, to enjoy the sun, to pick up a child, to enjoy the embrace of a loved one, to enjoy making love. all of those things will still be present.
Okay. What about smells and weight and solidity of life? Will it all be ethereal?
No, it won't all be ethereal. There will be smells. There are some that are, there still are smells. I can verify that. Anybody who's ever had a ghost smell, it definitely does still exist at that level.
Yes, and taste and all that. If anything, instead of it being lessened, it'll be more enhanced and more distinct and more vibrant.
And in addition, when you're touching other people, there's more of an exchange of energy that goes on. It's not as prosaic as touch in this world. It's more. There's more to it, right?
Yeah.
In addition to the touch, there's a great deal of information that comes along. If you're really good friends with someone and you give them a hug, you can tell their state of mind. You can tell how they're feeling emotionally. You can give them comfort. It's good.
And this is where the concept of, and I know it's like something that's been said around for a long time, of touching souls with someone. That's where it comes from.
And a lot of healing modalities use energy manipulation and touch.
Okay.
And I assume that farts will still smell, right?
I don't know anybody who farts except for comic effect.
We'll see what we can arrange.
Okay.
I'm sure Drake will still be able to clear a room if you need to.
Cool.
Okay, this is a question. I know this is I've seen this one or similar before. They're a little bit confused. Will there be babies, as in new babies being born just as we know it today, or just babies that existed before Ascension and stayed as babies?
No, you can. There's still pregnancy. A lot of people still choose to gestate. A lot of people still choose to bear. You're not going to see women dying in childbirth. It's not going to be nearly as painful a process as it is down here.
Okay, cool.
There's, several modalities for producing kids, so.
Right, they just couldn't wrap their heads around the idea of, manifesting a baby, or, they thought, well, does that mean, childbirth and everything is going away? Okay.
No, some people manifest babies. Some people prefer to bear them and gestate them and give live birth. Some lay eggs. It all depends on the species, the individual, the culture, and, individual desires. Some people really, really, really like being pregnant.
Okay.
I've had some people accuse me of being hatched, too.
Hey, I know plenty of nice people who are hatched.
All right, here's one. I guess we won't need that bathroom in our home anymore. What are we going to use those little rooms for?
I don't know, maybe showing guests, hey, we once used these. Can you believe this?
Yeah, or maybe, you can always turn the extra space into a closet to store the stuff that you collect traveling around the galaxy,
Yeah, you won't need it to store the clothes. You've got a replicator for that.
I need more closet space myself. Okay.
I don't think the ladies will understand not having to have a closet. I really don't think they're going to get that right away.
I have been informed by my fiancé and my brother that if I was not dressed, I would run around in a sack. So I think I'm one of these people who, doesn't know what a closet is.
Okay, let's see. My computer keeps dying and Skype freezing when your show starts. Is that an attack?
It's possible. I've heard of people who have had this kind of problem. I've also heard of people who suffer from various seemingly unrelated physical ailments during shows. Also could be brought about by something maybe a little more pointed and targeted. I don't know how to fix the problem, but yeah, we've heard reports of this.
Okay. And I think my dinner might be arriving, but I'll let you know. In an Alex Collier interview, he talked about the emotional range of the Andromedans being affected by what is happening here on Earth regarding the shift. what has their emotional range been compared to ours, and is it changing now? If not, then do they expect it to change, and how? I know that Collier mentioned that they also have been studying all the possible and likely outcomes of this emotional range change. If y'all don't know the answer to this, please get with your folks and ask them and share the answer with us the next time.
I can't speak about the Andromedans not being one of them. I can speak about our own people and the things that they have noticed. We have something we call a Earth sensitization program, which is mandatory. Everybody has to go through basically a simulation in the holodeck in which they live for a period of time thinking that they are a human being down on Earth with the same trials and tribulations that we have, the same challenges day to day. And I find that it really does cut down on arrogance and raises empathy. So anybody who might have had a tendency to, just poo-poo Terrans and the Terran experience, well, a week or two in the Terran sensitization program, and they're no longer poo-pooing anything. They're saying, we need to fix that stuff, and we need to fix that stuff now. When it comes to emotional expression, they have all the same emotions we do. We find with the positives, the negative emotions like fear, anger, jealousy, hatred, that kind of thing, they tend to be not as prone to them, and those things tend to pass a lot quicker.
And also, I've noticed that the positive emotions seem to be more broader range and even more sensitive, or more like...
Yeah, they're emphasized.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next question. After we ascend into 4D, will there be a universal planetary language, and will everyone speak it rather than having, like the French, the Germans, the Russians, the Americans, blah, 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 blah?
Well, likely with telepathy and universal translators, that won't be necessary. We're not in the habit of forcing populations to speak a specific language. Those who wish to do so may. I personally am of the opinion that every human language and every language that exists is valuable from the point that it offers a different psychological perspective. Every language has a unique psychological perspective, and it is a tragedy when a language dies out. So there's not going to be any
that we'll be able to communicate multi-language.
That won't
you know what I'm saying? Like that we'll be able to, with the ascension, that like say I would be able to talk to somebody in Germany and be able to communicate, whereas before, unless I knew how to speak German, I couldn't.
There's universal translators for one, and for another, people who find their capacity to learn new languages is greatly increased, such as you might be able to get the language pack and forget Rosetta Stone. 3 days later, you're speaking fluently. It takes about 3 days for it to settle into the system, but once it's there, you're fluent, and nothing's going to make you forget it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a universal symbol language, but just about every planet, every race has its own unique language, and languages are celebrated across the universe. And being, in communications, that's one of the things that I love is being able to learn any new language that I can. And, like Taff said, Taff said,
you can use the short version.
Yeah. There's going to be universal translators, and it seems with telepathy that languages in communications, your brain just automatically translates it. And so I think where Terrans are very limited in their ability to communicate now because of all the different limitations and things that have been put into society, that instead of seeing a even greater limitation after the transition, that Terrans will actually be seeing more of an opening and a lifting of limitations, because they'll be able to not only use telepathy, but they'll know body language, they'll be able to use their other senses and that kind of thing, and it'll actually, I think, reduce the communication problems between individuals.
Indeed, and you're going to find the average Joe fully capable of learning between 15 and 20 languages and being fluent in all of them.
Do you think that there will be general amnesty for those who participated in the UFO ET cover-up, and is it a good idea?
General amnesty? I can't say anything about general amnesty. I think that it's going to be largely dependent on individual circumstances. In a lot of cases, people did what they did out of fear of reprisals against their family, against themselves, out of fear of, maybe perhaps a genuine altruistic fear of if this gets out, there'll be widespread panic or whatever. It might have been misplaced, but there are those who were just doing it out of what they thought were genuine altruistic reasons or out of fear. In individual circumstances like that, amnesty may be appropriate. In the case of people who did this deliberately with the intent to harm humanity and harm this planet and harm Terrans on this planet, I don't think amnesty will be warranted.
Right, agreed. Yeah, the Federation is, very much going to take each individual on a case-by-case basis.
And this doesn't just stand for cover-up. This stands for everything. If there's mitigating circumstances, those things will be considered. If there aren't any, it's going to be a lot worse for individuals who willfully cause problems. That doesn't mean that anybody's going to be able to get off the hook if they're genuinely guilty about something. And even if there's mitigating circumstances, they'll still be required to face up to what they did one way or another. Nobody's getting off scot-free. And I think this probably fits along with people's Terran's plans for what should be done. I mean, we don't exactly want to go about hanging somebody who is innocent, but nor do we want to be letting the real monsters run off. There's definitely not going to be a case like what you see now where whoever can afford the best lawyer or can buy off the justice system gets off scot-free no matter what they do. That won't be happening anymore. When you're dealing with species that are composed of almost entirely of telepaths, it's a heck of a lot harder to pull BS like that over people.
Yeah, plus there's methods of preserving things that are thought to be destroyed. We have plenty of evidence preservation techniques that, and ways of knowing who's really telling the truth and who really isn't, that go far beyond what is here on Terra.
Last night I viewed a video that could change everything very quickly. It was Mr. Paul Hellyer, Canada's defense minister, and he was speaking to the Canadian Parliament, revealing the long-known truth about UFOs and how our governments have deceived the people about their existence. Hellyer is a man of great courage and a true visionary. He told of his long disbelief in UFOs, but finally realized the truth after studying documents over a 10-year period. He then revealed that extraterrestrials are here to help us and give us incredible technology that will bring health and cultural advancement to all of us. The Illuminati have hidden these technologies from us to keep us oppressed. When he advised that the ETs had solved the problem of cold fusion and free energy, I knew the ball game was over. Goodbye OPEC and the government lies. Drake and Company. The global media is currently under the control of the evil cabal. How long do you think it will take for mainstream media to pick up on the Defense Minister Hellyer's fantastic revelations that many ET species do exist, and our government has been working with some of them for decades?
Not long.
No.
The realistic estimate that I've gotten from my people is somewhere in a matter of days. Now, I know that sounds pretty fast, but that's what I've heard.
All I know is I'd love a chat with Mr. Hellyer. I think that would be interesting.
I think disclosure is very important, and, as far as the time frame, it's very difficult to pin any time frames down because things change practically by the minute. But
I do know when it happens, it'll happen fast.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's. I'll go back to when I was first on with Drake. When I discussed, it's kind of like we're mining our way out of we're mining our way out of prison, and we know sooner or later we're going to bust through the wall of the cave and find freedom, but we don't know exactly when that's going to happen. All we know is that wall is sounding thinner and thinner. Until we bust through, we won't know exactly when, and when we do, it'll be all of a sudden, and then a whole bunch of stuff will happen really, really quickly and all at once.
Yeah, I know one of the things the Federation is planning is a globally broadcast on all medias, in all languages, information, disclosure, and we have some other things planned, which I will not discuss at this point. But, suffice to say, we fully support the universal right to know and be informed.
Okay. Next question is, have you ever heard of a place called PYO? I believe it is short for something.
Now, being one of these people who has that whole dyslexia cluster of stuff, I don't do acronyms at all. Sorry.
Okay. Maybe this will help. I believe it is short for something. I was told that this was my home when I was around the age of 15. I have asked a lot of people, and no one seems to know of it, and I was once told that it was a planet or a star. The only thing I remember them saying it meaning was yes, which at the time was the most positive word I knew, and that K, or Q-U-E, meant no, the opposite. I would like to know if you know anything about it. I also remember them saying that there was a lot of water there almost 50 years ago, but it has meant a lot to me in my high school years. In my yearbook, there are comments from friends. Thank you for all the information. And this is it's a foreign-speaking person, so they don't have a real grasp on the, but they're trying to ask if you know anything about a place with a lot of water.
I'm afraid I personally don't know anything about that planet or that system. Sunfire?
I don't personally, but one of the things that we face with people asking questions like that is the native race often has a completely different name for their planet and their star system than what may be known to the Federation or what even may be known here on Terra. I know in a lot of instances when I talk about the different races, like on the radio show and stuff, I use what is known as the Terran equivalent or the English equivalent of the star system and planets and stuff because it's more for familiarity purposes than anything else. And it helps people to know, oh yeah, that's Palsetti. In the native language, it is a totally different name.
I guess the next question would be that if some people have knowledge of a planet or a place where they came from or were, would it be possible that they would be returning to that home?
It's likely. In fact, it's quite probable. Maybe not right away, but they'd have the option to resume that. If you are an incarnate, that is, if you are a person who is of non-Terran origin on this planet with a mission, likely you'll have the possibility or the potential to return home, usually after you've done whatever it was you came to do.
Okay. Related to a Thor question that was asked, I think, on the last program, I wanted to ask these couple of questions. Does Valhalla, Valhalla, exist somewhere, and can we join in their feasts? Also, do we get to meet the Viking gods in 4D, in particular Thor?
Well, a lot of the Viking gods are actually members of the Silver Legion. They like us for some reason. I don't know if Valhalla is a place that people can visit. If it's imagined, it can exist somewhere, but I don't know if it's a place you can visit. You'd have to ask them.
This person's wanting to meet Thor.
Yeah, Oh yeah, he's a great guy. I like him. It's fun to do sparring matches with him.
Okay. All right. Next question. I thought the ETs were going to step in if the Earth was going to be destroyed. It seems as though it is happening. Deepwater Horizon, Fukushima, chemtrails, GMO crops, destruction of the bees, and everything. Can we invite them in now? It seems as if the cabal is going to destroy the planet quicker than it can be saved.
The ETs are already, they're already involved, and they're already in the process of cleaning up the chemtrails, Fukushima, the environment, and basically everything else. There's also a responsibility for the Terran population to step up and do their part as well. The ETs are not saviors. They're not gods.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, even though it might not look like something is being done. As for inviting in others, be very careful. Be very specific. You don't want to inadvertently invite in the wrong people, right? You want to invite in ones specifically that have your best interests in mind, that have the best interests of Terra in mind, that have the best interests of freedom and free will in mind, and not ones that want to impose their own brand of whatever on you.
I think that's a concern of a lot of our listeners. They don't know. They're very wary of who is good, who is not, who, which presences are to be avoided at all costs. They're trying to learn of all the different races of ETs, and so they'll be prepared.
I think actually probably the best place to learn is right here with Drake and Tanaath and I, because, I mean, at least here you're going to get the truth, and we're not going to sugarcoat it.
Alex Collier, Tolik, are other good sources. Listen very carefully to the material, to what's being said. I'm going to second Tolik's truth of finding out how to find out what is and isn't truth. Look inside yourself, use your discernment. See, does this information uplift you, or does it fill you with fear? Does it fill you with terror? Anything that's provoking that kind of fear, it's probably not in your best interests. I'm never going to tell you to start panicking and being afraid, because that's not right. For one thing, I fully believe everything's going to turn out all right. For another thing, I don't think that you guys are incapable. Anybody who's trying to push the fear is automatically thinking that you guys can't do anything, and I don't think that's true.
Yeah,
well,
I totally agree.
Many of these spokespeople, for lack of a better word, that are out there go pretty much unidentified. They do not associate themselves with any group, any faction, any race of ET or anything like that. Like we have Cobra, we have, all these different people that are out there speaking, yet they don't associate themselves with a specific group or a specific ET. And so people are they Galactic Federation of Light? Are they Galactic Federation of Planets? Who are they, and who do they represent? And that's a big question for a lot of people. We get that all the time.
That, and the flip side of that is the ones who claim all kinds of hierarchy and authority. Council of this, Grand Council of that, all of the Andromeda Council is one thing, because they don't claim authority over you. The Galactic Federation of Planets does not claim authority over you. But you've got these like Orions and Pleiadians and Sirians coming out of the woodwork with their councils of this and that and the other thing, and all claiming hierarchy over you, all claiming that decrees have been made over you, all claiming that all these decisions have been made as to what to do with you. No. A lot of these apparati don't exist, for one thing, and for another thing, you're not subject to anybody's decrees but your own.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. And I mean, when it comes to, these things where they're like, Pleiadian this, Andromeda that, Orion this, Orion that, stop and ask, okay, to come from the Orion constellation, which is a big constellation, what star system do you come from? Just because somebody says they're Pleiadian doesn't mean they're a positive. The same thing with the Orions, and, the Andromeda Galaxy is a huge galaxy and a constellation.
Indeed. It's, you've got any number of potential weasels in there using those terms as weasel words to get by your defenses. Again, if they're issuing decrees, if they're issuing proclamations over you that involve your life and your existence on this planet, what gave them that right? Absolutely nothing. This planet is intended to be a free and sovereign, self-governed planet governed by Terrans, not by anyone else. You can choose whether or not you wish to participate in any of the number of intergalactic and galactic organizations, but you will be self-governed even if you do so. If you participate in the Galactic Federation of Planets, you will still remain self-governed. If you participate in the Andromeda Council, you will still remain self-governed. You're not required to cede your sovereignty to do that. Yet all these people who are coming and making proclamations and saying that it has been decreed and saying that their hierarchy dictates this or that, they're not coming in with your sovereignty and your best interest in mind. They're coming in to take that away, to enslave you.
Absolutely. Okay.
Totally agree.
Next question. What is the significance, or was the significance, of an explosion on the moon during the month of May?
It was an asteroid.
It was an asteroid, okay.
Yeah, sometimes an asteroid is just an asteroid.
Okay. Let's see. There was a link posted on the Facebook Universal Voice group about a week ago, and it had to do with crystal pyramids in the ocean. And it had something about Chase Clay. Would love to hear a response regarding that, if you know anything about that or can address that.
Oh, yeah, there's crystal pyramids not only at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle, but a few other places. No, they were not built on dry land. They were built there. They were built in place. Some of them were built on dry land, and then when continents sunk, so did they. Yes, these exist. Yes, there are multiple ones across the world. Yes, like all other pyramids on this and other planets, they are used for things. Usually, pyramids are used to stabilize planetary masses. They can also be used for healing, for energetic balancing, for transportation, for communication, for all kinds of things. We actually are still finding out all the things that you can use pyramids for.
Okay. Okay. Is the Earth truly going into a new golden age?
This is one thing I believe yes it is. However, this is not something that happens automatically. I want to stress that while I do believe that this timeline is the one that goes into Golden Age, that does not absolve us of doing the work. If we don't do the work, there will be no Golden Age. So just because we're supposed to go to a Golden Age isn't an excuse to sit on your duff and say everything's going to solve itself. If you feel called to fix a particular problem or contribute in a certain way, follow that. Don't just sit there.
Okay. For Tanaath, Drake, or Sunfire, or any of you, what is a singularity? This term has been thrown around a lot in many circles, and I've never gotten an answer that has made sense.
I've usually used it to refer to a black hole or other gravitic point like that.
Yeah, generally speaking, it is part of a black hole. It's in quantum. Drake, you want to go for this one? I mean, because I know about point singularity weapons, and I know about singularities as far as black holes and white holes, but I'm not...
Singularity drives.
Yeah.
And I also know about another thing referred to as the singularity, which is, I guess, they're thinking of sort of the quantum leap point or the paradigm shift point where AI or computers and electronics will become sentient.
Yes.
Do you want to go for explaining?
Did you want more information on that? It's complicated. All right. Now, to make it simple is fairly easy. Think about a complete circuit. Usually takes two wires, positive and negative pole on a battery, and when you put them together, it either overheats the wire or runs the battery down or turns the light on or whatever. A singularity is a combination of both positive and negative poles at the same time into a singular pole. Everybody has trouble getting their head around that because it is not real simple, but it's easy enough to explain. The fun begins when you understand that a singularity can be a gravitational pole, and the people at CERN, the Great Collider, have been playing games with that for a while. You also have the capability of using this for a combination of different uses, one of those being a power supply. And I'm not talking about the regular electrical kind of power necessarily. There are other forms of power. Anybody who has seen the space shuttle come into our atmosphere has noticed the plasma on the wings. Okay, well, that is a direct reflection of a type of power that is capable of being used if you know how to produce it. If you want to get into the fun and games, take a piece of pipe, put dirt in it right out of the garden, squeeze it, and you get what's known as a piezoelectric effect, meaning that when you squeeze it, it produces electricity. You have the same thing true in terms of a gravitational field. The positive and negative attraction of something flowing through matter is very simple. If you have something that is a pull or conductance on one end and a propagation or push, this is the way we make electricity, on the other, you can create speeds that are extraordinary in their velocities. We're just now beginning to break the surface loose on beginning to understand. So until such time as we start getting these little bridges between what we've been dumbed down to in science and what is the real fact of things, until those bridges start appearing, and they will, you're going to have problems dealing with the idea that things are not what they seem to be. If somebody wants to know, go online, Google electronic and atomic exceptions to laws of physics. And if you can stand the mathematics, there's a whole load in there. Now, there's another part to this, and it goes to the basic structure, the pattern of matter. Right now, we are in a carbonite or carbonistic or carbonal pattern. In other words, carbon in its essence is one of the bases of what 3D is. This will shift more towards crystalline. Now, people know, anybody that has been a Boy Scout, anybody that's done electronics knows about the crystal radio. How does that work? A very small amount of power can be rearranged, reconfigured. You can pick up radio stations just with a crystal. No battery required. So the gamut of sciences, the amount and different kinds of things that are applicable is extraordinary. Just remember, singularity means single, not dual, single. It can conduct. They'll tell you, they'll laugh at you and say, "Oh no, it don't." Well, tell me all about it. In terms of something being used. How does a laser work? That's a form of a light type of singularity. People don't understand that, but that is one of the concepts. And that's as far in the science as I'm going to get.
Thank you, Drake. And thank you, ladies. All of you answered that. Excellent. Okay. If the truth is buried under our feet, do you know of a location in Canada where ancient civilizations once thrived?
Sunfire?
I'm thinking, not off the top of my head. I know that that there's some on the coast near British Columbia, Canada, that were, trying to think here, a satellite substation of New Pacifica, but I don't know the exact coordinates.
There's another place. You go two-thirds north. Go two-thirds north in the center of the grasslands between the Rocky Mountains and the Appalachians. When you get to the point of two-thirds of the way through the body of Canada, either left or right is the direct direction. Well, just before and just at the mountains, you're going to find entrances, you're going to find hieroglyphs and a whole bunch of stuff. Okay?
There's also Nahanni Park in the Northwest Territory. Nahanni Park and the Nahanni River, it has an age-old reputation for, well, if you go in there, you're going to lose your head, literally.
Okay. Next question. Terry Cassidy interviewed James Casbolt and another so-called super soldier who said that Obama, currently in office, is a clone, and that as we go about rounding up those responsible for all of their misdeeds, how are we going to go about arresting the real person and not the clone?
We actually have methods of detecting the difference between clones and the real people.
When it comes to arresting the real person over the clone, you better make sure it's the real person who committed the crime, not the clone. Because executing or arresting somebody for the crimes of a clone is a crime itself. They're not to blame for what a puppet has done in their name.
Agreed.
Okay, so will us human beings be able to discern the difference? Will we know that we have the real person or that we have a clone? Will we know?
After the fourth dimension, yes, likely.
Yeah, definitely. And in the meantime, I prefer not to reveal how we tell the difference because I don't want to start an unwittingly a witch hunt.
Okay, well, I think that the question really is that, you know, we're supposed to clean up our act and get things correct and get, you know, like some of these people out of the way before ascension takes place. So if we haven't ascended yet, how are we going to know? What does that necessarily have to be?
Even if they're clones, it'll, be justice to execute the clone that's done those things.
And also those involved in actually arresting these people, the militias and military and stuff, they've been informed and actually provided with some technology to determine the difference between the clones and the real ones. And they're going to be handling the arrest, so they know
how
to
tell the difference. Right, so we'll be average Joe. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay, was the Earth created by the big...
I was going to say the ETs and, the Federation and Andromeda Council, etc., we're all working very closely with the militia and the military to, help them out as much as we can.
Yep, and when it comes to things like clones, well, it's always interesting to see who collapses and whatnot in the news and stuff like that. Often a telltale. Not always, but often.
Okay, this question is directed at Drake, but of course you two girls can elaborate. Question, Drake, was the Earth created by the so-called Big Bang Theory, and what was the purpose of the Earth actually being created in the first place?
I'm gonna give you guys the answer that you deserve on that one. Yes, partially. Some of the physics involved in the core expansion does include a bang. The Earth was artificially created, and it was created to be an individual sovereign planet. A lot of people are unaware that is the case. And I'll let the girls jump in this. This ought to be interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, Drake actually pretty much said it. I was like, okay, how can I add to this? I mean, you got to consider that the universe was created close to 900 centillion years ago, and the planet Terra, Earth, this planet is only more in the realm of about 7.5 billion years, and like you said, it was artificially created. Or, as the term we prefer to use, geoengineering.
There are natural planets and natural suns that are created in ways that are, posited by some of our own scientists, but Earth is not one of them.
Okay.
There's many races out there that are capable of creating entire solar systems.
Okay. A recent video on the Germans exploring under the North Pole decades ago translates some of the writings that were found. One said that there's a huge planet 3 times the size of Earth which rotates clockwise around the sun every 3,600 years. When this large planet enters the plane of rotation of planets in our solar system, the results are very powerful electromagnetic vortex on the Earth, causing terrible disasters, worldwide floods, death of civilizations on the Earth's surface, etc. The Pacific Ocean will have major tsunamis 7 kilos high at speeds of over thousands of kilos an hour. It's due again supposedly in the year 2014. If not, for the work of Drake, Tanaath, and Sunfire are doing, we are toast if the above should be true. What is your take on this?
I want to step in and say that it's probably just another rehashed version of the how do we say this, psyops of Nibiru and the big bad Anunnakis. As far as the mass casualty destruction events, those only have happened in the course of history of Terra when the planet was forcefully moved into one orbit or another, like when the planet was in a different orbit 5 days, with a 5 day shorter rotation around the sun and moved to its current position. There has never been any other accounts, historically speaking, of those kind of massive destructive mass casualty events. And there is no planet, or artificial or natural or otherwise, that has a 3,600-year rotation in the solar system.
Not to mention, I have had, heard rumblings of people who are claiming that, certain species are going to lift us up off the planet and rescue us because it's going to change orbit and anybody who doesn't go is going to die. No, wrong. Categorically, not going to happen. Somebody shows up saying, get on my spaceship to save your life, don't do it. The only ones I'd trust are the Andromeda Council, and then it's not to save your life. It's like only if you do not wish to ascend.
Okay. What are the main functions of pyramids, and are they based on all planets all over the universe, or just on Earth?
They're on many planets. I don't know about all of them, but many. As for the function, I think I answered this a little bit earlier. They have a lot of different functions, some of which we're still discovering.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, some of these questions have been held over from weeks past, ladies, and so I apologize. Okay. I mean, I've got 17 pages of questions. Okay, if that's any indication. Okay, is there a huge amount of hidden gold anywhere, and how will it retain its value when people move to sell it? Won't supply and demand just mean a far lower price?
Well, when you take into consideration that the intrinsic value of gold is only what is placed upon it, outside of Terra, there is no monetary value to gold. It is, nice for jewelry, used for, like technical applications and that kind of thing. So beyond that, I think I'll throw it over to Drake. He knows more about this financial stuff than I do.
Well, it's very simple. Man decided that gold was a rarity, and so placed a value on it. And that value's grown or subdivided and changed over a period of years. And they found out that the basis of the idea of keeping a pot of gold, a centralized location of it, or locations, can be multiple, was something that could be used to the advantage of propagating currency. That's done through an agreement. In other words, it's a simple contract that you're leasing or buying a certain amount of gold. That is then rendered to a large bank in the form of gold certificates. Those certificates then are monetized into dollars, yen, rubles, or whatever. And that's the basis for your currency. The interesting part is that in reality, currency doesn't have any value. It's a piece of real fancy paper. I mean, it's there's probably expense involved, but other than that, it doesn't have any value. And if everybody would really think, and I'm going to throw a little reality in the mix, if everybody really think about it, what do you got to have? You have to have some kind of shelter and clothing from elements. You have to have water to drink and food to eat. Now, outside of that, other than, going to work and all that fun stuff, what is it that gold can do for you? You can't eat it. I understand it's not really good for you when you go chomping on it. The paper money used to be used for wallpaper, butt wipe, and a few other things. They used it for fuel in Germany when I got to 1 trillion marks for a loaf of bread. This is the reason behind the idea that a moneyless or cashless society is not all that difficult to do, to come about. And it accomplishes a bunch of things. Right now we got an attitude of, I'm doing fine, keep your hands off my stack, Jack. And I make so much. Oh, I make more than you do. Well, does that mean I'm lesser than that? But the standard of looking at the value of an individual has been equated to commerce and or money. So we have a screwed up society. You got a bunch of young people that don't believe there's a future because of all this ring around the rosy and rigmarole. You teach them things in school that they can't use when they go outside the door of it. You do not get them ready to be a self-sufficient or productive human being because few people are teaching the work ethic, actually enforcing it with their children. Few people are seeing that the value between human beings, and I mean that literally, and I'm not talking about just your spouse, I'm talking about everybody you meet, everybody you deal with, is thousands of times more valuable than anything you can, I got a diamond, or wow, look at the gold I found. It don't equate. You can't buy love. Pretty simple. A lot of rich people are so miserable for two reasons. They were brought up to watch their riches. And when you watch your riches, you don't have time to learn how to be a human being. You do not learn your social intercourse limitations and unlimitations and how to make friends and how to go have a good time with nothing at all. And so the core value system has been skewered, has been screwed up. I'll say this very, very realistically. We have a generation of children right now that don't believe that any of it's that they're not going to live, that it don't matter. Blast off into space and don't worry about it. So you've got problems with drugs, alcohol, don't care, and other things. And I hope some young people are listening, because we are about to pop a door on Pandora's box of a future that's almost as unlimited as a time machine, almost as big as the whole of the galaxy, maybe even the universe. How much fun could you have tooling around out there? What could you discover to be used that might be of advantage to everybody? What grouping of people, just like Star Trek, could you discover that would be really awesome, that you'd like to spend time with them, to learn about them, to exchange views and values? What's the limitation on advanced technology? So, when we get these things in the correct perspective, you find that riches don't mean squat. I'd rather lay up my treasures in the heart of another human being that appreciates my care for them. The essence of that cannot be matched. The unlimited love, and I'm talking about the little puppy dog love that a child expresses for their parents, this kind of thing. This should be evident throughout society. We need to change it. We need to get it right, and we need to adjust it so that it is, once again, value that really drives it, not gold or silver. Next.
Okay. Let's see. All right. The Keylontic science stuff that people have asked about is most likely coming from Ashiana Dean's material. She claims to work with an ET group called the Guardian Alliance, who she claims are very good guys. She has a 6-hour, 3-part interview with Carrie Cassidy at Project Camelot. And what do you think about her and her material, or the group that she's claiming about?
Well, that's a really non-specific name, Guardian Alliance.
I can tell you the Federation has never heard of the Guardian Alliance. What I've heard of Ashiana Dean is not positive, and I was raised, if you can't say anything polite, don't say anything at all. And this is one of those times I'm going to stick with that answer.
Okay. This is a real question, although it may seem like a joke. I hope you won't laugh at me. For Tanaath, have you ever heard of Shivambu? I think it's Shivambu, which is an ancient ritual of drinking one's own urine for physical health and for spiritual connection. It has been found that Terran urine is made of crystals that resonate with higher energies. It has also been used in India and other old cultures for centuries.
I have heard of it. I could not confirm or say anything about the practice other than I've heard of it. Some people do it, appear to do just fine. I'm not going to recommend that anyone drink their own or anyone else's urine. But if that floats your boat, if it does something for you, nothing's stopping you.
Okay.
I've been familiar with that for a long time, and I did some studies on it and found out that you can get the same crystalline effects if you use certain types of specific, it's called a specific crystalline bath additive, not a bath salt, but a bath additive. And you don't have to worry about what you're drinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because, I know people who were practicing that, doing that when they were being treated for cancers and stuff. And they said that, it was replenishing what your body, is flushing out. But if, your body's also flushing out all the toxins and everything, too, so you're re-ingesting the toxins. So I couldn't make sense of that myself. Let's see. Why haven't our star brothers and sisters shut down HARP just yet? Is there difficulty in doing so?
Well, somebody might want to try to go out and pull a plug and see how they do. HARP's all over the place, so it's not easily done.
Yes, it's more than just one station in Alaska.
Yeah, there's a lot.
ET is working on things, and that is one of the subjects, among many others, that have come to the attention that is not good for anybody. So these things are being attended to as best can be done at this point.
Okay. Is the Eye of the Sahara a huge spaceship that crashed there a long time ago?
Actually, this is the first I've heard of it.
I have heard of it. I
I'm gonna say
don't
no.
have specific information on that one, though.
I'm going to say no. If you study it out, you'll find that it deals with a glassine sheet of, kind of it ranges from blue through turquoise to a very light green. It's very pastel in color. These apparently were formed by specific airbursts of extraordinarily high energy weapons. Now, people think that atomics is the highest you can go in weaponry. It isn't, and that is part of what I understand has been used. A few of the underground cities in the Sahara do have records of such things. One is a weapon referred to as the weapon of the sun. Another is referred to as a weapon of the stars. The weapon of the sun is atomics. The weapon of the stars is something I will not name specifically so nobody gets any ideas. It makes atomics look like fireworks, and it is extraordinarily destructive. The Sahara used to be lush. It used to be a living, growing area until such time as somebody decided to bomb it back into the Stone Age. And this is true of a lot of your desert areas. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just wanted to recommend, for people that are really interested in that kind of stuff, I recommend researching atomic warfare in ancient history. You'll learn a lot about some of the history that has been left out of the history books. And it's also mentioned, I believe, in the Mahabharata or one of the other Hindu religious texts.
Exactly.
There's a lot of historical information.
Okay. What is going on at the Dulce, New Mexico base now, if anything?
As far as I understand, and granted I could be wrong here, but I was told that it's been cleared out.
Okay. When we ascend to the next dimension, will people have morals again?
Yeah.
Okay, so society won't be so horribly
decayed. But it depends on... won't be what?
It won't. Our society, it's so morally decayed right now. It's no. People
a lot of
have
that is the result.
Yeah.
A lot of that is the result of basically a coordinated attack on civilization through the use of media and through the use of what I guess you could call the collective consciousness or the collective unconsciousness in this regards. A psychological and sociological attack designed to produce a society where, at least in public, we don't have much of a moral compass. I think you will find that individuals still have much of this. It just doesn't appear that way in the media and in the news. I would also say that some things that are considered within the realm of morality are not going to be something that you're going to see a resurgence of, and this includes a lot of the repressive ideologies of surrounding human interaction, particularly in terms of relationships and children and child rearing and stuff like that. Sex is not legislated in the fourth dimension in positive societies. It does not. It doesn't matter who you fall in love with or who you make a family with. those kinds of things aren't legislated, because pregnancy is largely a voluntary issue as opposed to an involuntary issue. You don't have things like unprepared mothers starting too young and society's generally venomous hate on them for that.
Yep.
Okay. Yup. All right. Let's see. Sorry to keep saying that, but the questions are coming so fast and furious that everything keeps bouncing around on me. Okay. Tolek mentioned that pyramids on Earth and Mars are related to the reptilianization of this solar system. So are there plans for removing these, quote, landmarks, unquote?
Some pyramids are involved with that. Not all pyramids are. When it comes to pyramids, it depends on all the other places that have pyramids. Removing them isn't always a good idea.
We have absolutely no intention of removing any of the pyramids. One of the key purposes of the pyramids is to balance and stabilize the planet. And I mean, there's so many other uses. The pyramids are not something that was an original reptilian design. They were taken over by the reptilians, and let's put it this way: we're taking them back.
Okay. Let's see. What's the next question? Is there any information on the sentient black goo story, and is there a link with the Falklands and the Gulf of Mexico events?
I believe this was answered before. The sentient black goo was something that was gifted to Terra by the Arcturians and can only be used for positive things. That's as far as I know anyway.
I remember when I first encountered the tale, here was this guy who was telling me about this stuff that seemed to have nothing but positive benefits, and his conclusion was panic, fear. Something didn't quite match up. If something's going to come around and basically make me a better person and give me superpowers, I don't think panic and fear is going to be my first conclusion. It seemed like a pretty powerful psyop to me, like somebody was trying to make up my mind for me. There are rumors of other various goos that have other effects, but I know the one that makes you a better person, that's not sent by an enemy.
I'd just like to know where I can get me a bottle.
No kidding, I wouldn't mind a bottle of that stuff.
Yeah, same here.
Maybe if the listener out there that asked that question knows about it, they might be able to give us some information. We can go from there.
Really? Okay, do you folks plan to distribute the suppressed technology right after the Cabal is taken down, or would you check it before? I mean, if I were Cabal, I would do something to the technology so it would kill other Terrans or make them extremely sick.
We know how to distribute it so that it won't do that. When we're talking about distributing tech, we're not talking about walking up to somebody, giving them a replicator and saying, here you go. We're talking about walking up to somebody, giving them plans, giving them material, and say, have fun. In some cases it might be a case of here you go, but usually it's going to be a matter of here's your plans, now build it.
Well, there's also involved in this, as I understand it, classes, so that you don't have a steak that comes out tasting like rutabaga. So
yeah.
Or making the Silver Legion replicator mistake. If you're not very, very specific in your intent when you press the button on the Silver Legion replicators, for instance, if you want steak and cheesecake, and you're not really, really specific about steak and cheesecake, you might get steak cheesecake.
Yeah, a lot of it, we're going to be looking over the patents and making safety improvements, but 99% of the tech that is going to be released is going to come from patent stuff that has already been invented by Terrans before we release any other extraterrestrial tech to the general population. The Terran tech will come out first.
And we got a lot of it.
Yep, and we also have the means to protect people, so there's no more knocking off somebody for having an over-Unity device.
Now, Now, there's something that people don't know, and I'm going to put this into the mix. Part of the releasement of the collateral accounts will deal with funding and making sure that manufacture of things of this nature is available so that people can have the technology. Okay?
Okay.
I know one of the things that, people I've seen just getting really upset over is all these patents that are being made up in the U.S. government and several other places claiming ownership over people's DNA, genetics, soul, all this other stuff. The Federation intends to completely remove and destroy those patents because we do not believe that anybody but the individual self should have any claim of ownership over, their own body.
And when it comes to ownership of ideas, because of the nature of information itself, we do not believe in the ownership of ideas. The way ideas travel is if it occurred to you, it can occur to others. You do not own that idea, even if you are the first one recorded to write it down or express it. And if you aren't the one to record it, write it down, and you still had it, it'll move on, and somebody will do something about it. Ideas spread. They don't use, I guess you could say, conventional methods to spread either. They use quantum methods to spread.
And the other part is that no entity known that I know of is allowed to have, quote, ownership of life in any of its diverse forms.
Yep.
So therefore,
indeed.
I buy Monsanto, among others.
Yeah, no kidding. Yay. That's
we really don't like
really
Monsanto.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to say you guys should keep your eyes out for Monsanto-based crop field circles.
Yep.
I've heard that the ETs are going to start having some fun with the GMO crop fields quite soon.
Yeah.
I've been posting a bunch of stuff on our Facebook page about Monsanto, and I think everybody needs to take a look. If you haven't, get on there and take a look. It's in there.
Mm-hmm. I knew Monsanto was a dirty word back in the early 2000s. I'm Canadian. I grew up on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
It's largely because of entities like Cargill, which is a Monsanto subsidiary, that we have things like Mad Cow. I knew a dairy farmer who, after the feed ban in Canada, sent feed back twice because he could smell blood in the feed. This was after the ban on blood and animal products in bovine feed.
Mm-hmm.
So don't blame the farmers when a case comes up. Blame Monsanto. They're the ones who are supplying the feed. This farmer, after sending back twice, started growing his own, and I now get my beef from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people don't understand. For God's sakes, get out and use your weed eater, because if you are using Roundup to edge your yard or whatever, you're putting Agent Orange in your yard in a bottle.
Well,
not to mention dandelions are incredibly healthy.
Absolutely. And you keep the weeds and the heck with the GMO grass. Okay? All right. Let's see. What is the reality of intention/visualization? I have been trying this with little success, it would seem. Is this simply not feasible in a 3D environment to some people?
I would say more in a 3D Terran environment. There's been a lot put in place by the bad guys, the Cabal, the Reptoids and all that, to either completely block or slow down to a significant snail crawl any, ability that would be natural or otherwise to 3D humans to be able to use their visualization and manifestation abilities that should actually be natural to them.
Furthermore, it's pointed. It's a lot harder to manifest positive here than it is to manifest negative. You can have basically free reign on manifesting your own hell.
Okay. All right. Question for Tanaath. According to the information you have given, I guess I would be considered to be an incarnate or interdimensional, being that has been here in another life in the past. I even believe I know the name that I went by in my past life. The name is well known, and for that reason and the fact that I am having a difficult time coming to terms with the implications associated with that past life, I will not mention that name at this time. However, I've experienced things in this life that I cannot explain, and I know of no one who can give me any information on the subject. For example, as crazy as this sounds, I've been shot in the head 3 different times at point-blank range, twice by law enforcement officers several hours apart. The first time at the time of my arrest, and the second was several hours later while in the jail by a different officer. The third time was after I had been bailed out by a group who had heard of the incident and had to prove it to themselves. I saw the holes. I have watched the bloody thick goo run down my back and shoulder as I sat in the cop car. The officers were freaking out, to say the least. Another time, in a different jail, intent on harming no one, I challenged the booking staff and was tased 3 to 5 times with absolutely no effect at all. No one was harmed, including myself. I'm challenging the powers that be. Challenging the powers that be seems to be a running theme from my past life into this one. There are, however, things that I have come to believe are more or less calling cards or identifiers. If it should be possible that I could discuss this at length with you, I would love to. But for now, could you give me any insight at all as to those experiences and their possible meanings?
Okay, so there's a few things to address in this. First of all, yes, some of us who are incarnated have been famous people in the past. A lot of times, people who have been somebody well-known in Terran history or Terran mythology don't like to talk about it because the first thing they get is accused of delusion. So I understand not wanting to out yourself. I do have a more famous name that I don't use and I will not discuss casually. When it comes to your propensity to get in and out of life-threatening situations, all I can say is it sounds like on one hand, somebody really wants you out of the picture, and on another hand, somebody really wants you in it, possibly even yourself. So, don't tempt fate. I wouldn't try to test this, but you've clearly got something looking out for you, and you're clearly a high priority target for whatever reason. You can contact me on my website. There's a little button at the bottom of the homepage. Don't give me your life story in your first post because the widget that keeps out the spam makes emails nearly unreadable, and if emails are nearly unreadable, I won't respond to them. They'll get put down on the priority list until I forget about them. So keep it short and introductory, and then once we have, stuff that can be text edited nicely, then we can have a dialogue. And
that's on what website?
That's my silverlegion.org website.
Okay.
www.silverlegion.org. That's silver as in the metal, legion as in many. And it's an org, not a .com.
Okay.
Yeah, I will apologize to people. I am not good at emails right now. I have simply gotten too many, and I've simply had too many things going on with this work and in my own regular mundane life that I can't keep up with emails. So I'll do my best, but honestly, there's a lot I just can't respond to these days.
Okay. Thank you, Tanaath. Let's see. I have a question I would like to submit to Tanaath and Sunfire and Drake. It is open to anyone for their thoughts, and it is with respect to human relationships of the romantic partnership kind. I cannot cite my recent I can cite my recent experience briefly as an example. I'm deeply confused with regard to finding the right partner, having been deeply hurt on a few occasions. If it is true that I am a sensitive soul and do not enter into a relationship unless I have a strong positive feeling for the other person. 6 months ago, however, I met someone via the Internet for whom I have had a very positive feelings about as soon as we met in person, and these feelings were reciprocated. I saw also a number of highly encouraging signs around this time with respect to potential relationships, even so far as to say that this person was, I thought, the one for me. After 1 month of a friendship, we became a couple. The first 2 months of the relationships went very well, with issues surfacing in the last 2 months. I was then unceremoniously and very suspiciously dumped, and I'm still very upset and confused by the whole situation. I know it's only natural that you get to know a person over time, and you're on your best behavior, and it eventually wears off. But it is something that doesn't quite add up for this one with me. I have been told that I was not meant to be single in this lifetime, and that I was not seen as a solo operator. At age 38, I'm starting to feel like I might have missed my boat.
I wouldn't worry about that, especially if the timing is right according to the Andromeda Council. You got a lot more time in which to think about this in this lifetime than, 38 and up. So when it comes to that, don't worry. You'll meet them eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was important to add that in there.
Right.
You're going to meet them eventually.
Right. Okay.
And you don't need to worry about not being in the prime meat market age group anymore. For one thing,
Gotcha.
Love is not defined by age. Not in
Correct.
any way, shape, or form. I've known people on Terra here who have met their one and only in their 70s and 80s and had wonderful relationships. But if you stay on this planet and you become fourth dimensional, you're going to have at least a couple thousand years in which to think about this. And relationships become a lot easier up there. There's a lot less of this dancing around wondering what the real person is really like. What you see is oftentimes what you get.
Mm-hmm.
As for your relationship, without knowing any of the details, and I'm not a relationship counselor. I don't really want to be involved in it. I can't say anything about why it might have happened the way it did.
Mhm. Okay. All right. They were basically the point. The gist of the question was, if I'm ever able to speak to my ex-partner again, I hope that once we transition into 4D, that amends could be made, and I will know the truth once and for all.
You'll likely get a chance to have that talk with anybody who needs to have that talk with. I know, I'm looking forward to being able to ask a few people in my life why.
Uh-huh.
It's not something that's burned in a hole in me now, but it's something that I hopefully will get resolution on at that time.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Last week you talked about about other scenarios for ascension in other planets. You said that people from other 3D planets who would like to evolve into 4D people would be their personal choices. How exactly does that work? Do their souls have to exit the 3D realm and then reincarnate into 4D realm, or do they need to drive a spaceship to a 4D space to evolve automatically?
There's a few ways. There's a few ways. Usually spaceships are not the way it happens because that's an artificial transition, and it doesn't stick. That person, when they finish that life, will likely go back to 3D in another incarnation or another life. One way is when people have finished their tenure and decide they want to move on, they do it at the end of their natural life. So they have their natural lifespan. They pass peacefully surrounded by loved ones, saying, it's time, I'm going on, I'll see you later, and they ascend. And usually at that point they become another Like they incarnate into another species or are born into another species. I guess I shouldn't use the term incarnate because there's not a lot of carn at that point. Sometimes they will have a living transition in which that person decides, okay, I'm going to ascend, and they do it during that lifespan and continue on as that person, only higher dimensional. And on a lot of these planets where you see multiple dimensions in the population, those are populations that tend to do that living transition.
Okay. And then you also said that if a planet itself was ascending, then the planet would be recycled and the people would need to be taken off the planet. Could you explain further about what you mean by the planet? Yeah, it was like, can you explain a little bit better about what you meant about a planet being recycled? And what
the planet is not recycled. The surface of the planet is recycled. What it does is it's like whipping off a tablecloth and putting on a new one. Unfortunately for the tablecloth, the old one goes away and the new one is different or similar but still higher dimensional, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that all existing life on that planet is taken back into the planet's core and then re-expressed in a different form at a higher dimension. Yes, that means death of the physical body if applicable. In the case where those planets have populations that are sentient, those populations lift off and go elsewhere, usually, or stick around and decide to show up in whatever new form the planet's pulling out. But either way, they get off the planet or they voluntarily cede their current existence for a new one.
Okay. Drake and/or Tanaath. We'll get you to answer one, Drake. Could you explain what your perspective is on soul contracts? Some people have said that we come to planet Earth to suffer and experience because we have soul contracts when we enter the Earth. Does that mean that the Illuminati and the Vatican are justified to abuse, torture, and kill innocent children because the souls of these children have signed the soul contract of being abused, tortured, and/or killed? Who would manage this type of soul contract, and a negative group or a positive group? And is this the karma trap that you have talked about in the past?
Can I answer this one, pretty please?
Sure.
Yeah, Parsley. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Okay, mixed. There are soul contracts. Yes. Justified? Heck no. Nothing like that is justified by these soul contracts. The soul contracts that were written down here were written under false premises. They were written with the interference of these lords of karma who were basically giving you choices between getting raped to death or shot in the head. So the choice between atrocity A and atrocity B may still be a choice, but it is not exactly a free will choice, and it is not exactly within the spirit of honoring the soul contract. Do you have comments, Drake?
I'd be afraid to try to comment on that one.
Okay.
I totally echo what Tanaath said.
Okay, Tanaath and Sunfire, although you are not predicting any timelines, and we understand, are we getting extremely close to 4D evolution event from your perspective, or are there still another 5 or 10 years maybe to wait?
I don't think it'll be 5 or 10.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be 5 or 10 years either. But yeah,
I'm not quibbling about years. I'm quibbling about days and months.
Yeah.
All right. What can you guys tell me about this? Another mini solar system. I was listening to JP's Ever Beyond radio show with Alex Collier, and I believe that this was Collier's last interview, and they passed lots of disturbing information on that show.
Actually,
about
I'm
another.
familiar with that interview. I'm familiar with that interview. I'm familiar with that interview. I listened to that interview. None of what was said, as far as that is concerned, had anything to do with what Alex Collier was saying. And as far as the mini solar system, it's another myth like Nibiru. More psyops, more scary. Oh my God, the rope's gonna end.
Anybody who's telling you to be afraid, be very, very afraid, they've got a vested interest in keeping you in fear, and it's probably not according to your best interests.
Okay. How do
and I know that.
Oh, go ahead.
I know Collier ain't peddling fear porn there. He never has, and I hope he never does.
Okay. How do invasions work? I've seen information stating that the invading off-world force cannot simply come in guns blazing, but rather have to coerce or convince a native force to work for them and therefore rule indirectly. A bit confused on this.
That's exactly how it goes, especially when you're dealing with a population that is unaware. If you're dealing with a population that's aware of your presence, you'd try to come in guns blazing, right? Because that's the only opportunity you have. If you're dealing with a population that you catch at the unaware stage, well, you infiltrate. It does not make sense to come in guns blazing. You get a lot of property damage lost that way. You get a lot of potential slaves lost that way, and you've got to keep in mind this is what they want. They're not just after it for the mud here. They're after it for the biomass, and they're after it for us and what we can do for them. They infiltrate. They take it over from within. They try to convince the meal to lie itself down and get slaughtered instead of fighting the whole way down. That is how you take over a planet.
Yeah,
it is also how you save a planet from being taken over that way. You infiltrate. You counter.
Yeah, that's why we have incarnates. I was going to say, if you want, a really great detailed explanation of the difference between invasions and the subjugation of a planet, I suggest going to bibliotechapleiades.net and in the little search item put the term Kyla and Procyon.
That's Kyla.
Yeah. And you'll get a very, very eloquently put, very honest and truthful explanation from Kyla. He's real. He's actually a member of the Galactic Federation of Planets, and one of the Procyons are one of our greatest allies, and we're proud to have them as members as well.
Not to mention, he's really, really fun at parties and a good cook.
Yeah.
I think noodles came from them.
And he's like, him and his people are a lot of fun and playing pranks, and they're really good at busting reptoid bases.
Is there really such a thing as containment, as being said by some cabal members, being placed into containment and pumped full of the light?
I don't know that the light is necessarily a fluid you can use to pump into somebody.
That's not how it's going to be done. There's just honestly some beings you could shine a blue giant star on and it wouldn't it wouldn't have the effect that people have been misled to believe love and light really does have.
Okay.
A lot of these guys are not exactly concerned with being part of the light in any way.
Does each human being have a mean vibratory rate? If yes, does this rate assist us in choosing where best to live in harmony with our resonance?
An average vibratory rate, I'm assuming? I don't know.
Okay, does Drake or anybody else have any comment on that?
Yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah, we got a vibratory rate. Friend of mine that was an instructor at Ivy Tech expressed things about the application of vibratory physics in terms of each of the different elements having a specific vibratory frequency. the vibratory frequency we have is spherical, not lineal, and is very difficult for somebody to read in a lot of ways. But yes, we do.
Okay. Is there a possible timeline that no major events would happen, no arrests, no destruction, and no ET landings, and just suddenly we would all become 4D human sometime next year? Would that be possible?
Not likely. We're, that's definitely not the timeline we're on.
Yeah, it's not going to be like a spontaneous combustion.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. That one's been asked already. Sunfire, you have a very cute laugh. They love your giggle. Also, both of you ladies are spot on. Thank you for being with us. That's another comment.
Well, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Okay. I had to tune in late this evening, so I apologize if this has been already covered. My question is concerning the 24-hour scuttlebutt that some sort of extraordinary announcement is coming within the next 24 hours. Is there anything that you know of it?
I know nothing of it. I guess it's something more Drake would know.
You know me and dates and timelines.
You're going to have a whole bunch of these prophecy, fun and games thingy. It's going to happen at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and look to the southwest sky, and the world comes to an end, and whatever. I will suggest that you take all of that with a very big grain of salt. The bigger the better. And I'm not, these types of questions come from the fear porn that's put on the internet primarily, or somebody repeating it. You've got the imminent destruction of mankind, and it's going to be, the storms are going to come and eat you up. The ocean's going to rise 7,000 feet. The United States is going to sink into the ocean. Pick one. There are certain extremely extraordinary things that just ain't going to come about. And the best thing to do is look at that and think about some of the information that you've already received. Most of it will stipulate that, no, not today, and most likely not tomorrow either. So, grit your teeth and get used to the mundacity and enjoy your little rut and all that. Okay?
Okay, a comment from one of our listeners. There are some really strange noises going on the program tonight, nothing like I've ever heard before. And I don't know if you guys have heard them, but I'm hearing like weird tones and weird interferences, and like occasionally your voices are all as if your voices are being fed through a voice changing apparatus of some kind. And I even had to dial in on my home phone so that when you faded out and I couldn't understand what you were saying, I could listen through the phone.
Well, get her done.
I know Sunfire has a hissy mic, and there was some dishwasher unloading going on here, so I can account for some of the clankies.
No, it's not. It's not dishwasher. It's like a weird electronic sounds that I'm hearing. It's like almost like you would hear, on the old movies like, Star Trek, weird electronic kind of noises and stuff.
We have a thing called a fan club, and they're busy, guys.
Oh yeah.
So, I would it's just like the other thing. Take it with a very big grain of salt and go, yeah. Now, we promised you changes. Now you can actually hear some. Now, what is going on is that the cabal, the bad guys specifically, are losing their minds right about now. There are things in motion, things going on, and things happening, not only that they really don't like, but we're breaking their toys, and that really screws up their game. That messes them all out of shape. They get all off their rhythm, and et cetera. So as these, and I won't get more specific than that, but as these things continue, you're going to hear more and more of the whoopity-doos in the background. You get used to it.
Okay. What can any of you tell us about the White Flame Warriors, and where do they hail from?
Don't think I've ever heard of them.
Yeah, me either.
Okay, Drake, have you heard
They're
of them?
alluding to an old group.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
It's best not to worry about it a whole lot, okay?
Okay. Moot point. Okay. Let's see. Regarding survival, do some deaths of humans that weren't supposed to happen, does that throw a major glitch in the spiritual path of our Earth, or are these people's tasks able to be taken over by others in their place?
There's always a duplication. Anytime you got something as big stakes as this, there's always duplication.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's being kept in balance as far as that goes.
Okay. And here we go. Me with my inability to pronounce some things, words I'm not familiar with. Do you know anything about, I think it's pronounced sylphs, S-Y-L-P-H-S? And if so, are they for real? And do they transmute chemtrails?
Sylphs are real. They're members of the Fey kingdoms. I know some that do work on chemtrails.
Okay. The populations of many land animals and marine animals have perished or are in massive decline. The bees and butterflies and other animals that are required to pollinate our plants are definitely in decline. Many plants are being wiped out due to pollution and chemicals and are dying out. Many plants, animals, and insects have perished. Will they be restored?
Yeah, they will. A lot of the beneficial stuff that has been whose populations have been damaged or even outright targeted, like in the case of bees, a lot of them will be restored. A lot of bee colonies have already ascended. Bees are definitely present at higher dimensions. I've heard stories of planets where bees are bigger than you and definitely friendly.
Right. Will we see?
Hope they're not too friendly. Hope they're not too friendly.
There's already a lot of environmental restoration being done in the oceans and sky and even on land by various ET races. The thing is, right now, because we don't have disclosure, they have to work, as subtilely as possible. And once disclosure hits, they'll be working in a more open, out in the open, very visible way.
Mm-hmm. I need to put out for overtime in the Gulf of Mexico. Okay.
Yeah, there's several aquatic races that are involved in cleaning up the Gulf of Mexico, Fukushima's ocean area, other places where they illegally dump nuclear waste and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If Star Wars is about the past and Star Trek about our near future, what is Stargate? Is that a part of it?
Stargate, I would say, is probably, from what I understand, Stargate was based on the military and their experience with several artificial Stargates. So, it's another one that's based, based on facts.
Okay, back to the plants and animals thing. Will we see the return of extinct species like the dinosaurs, etc.?
Probably not the dinosaurs. They did their thing. Their time's done. They're gone. But yes, some of the recently extinct species due to human activity, you'll probably see them again.
And also, ones that would not be considered, to have a negative impact on humans will be returning. I think, people are starting to see that with, the return of what was thought to be extinct prehistoric animals, including fish and several other different species. It's already in progress.
Okay.
Yeah, you're also going to see the return of some species that were considered to be cryptids, or things like unicorns and pegasi and stuff from legends. They'll be back, and some of these things that cryptozoologists discuss, they'll be back.
Yeah, even
Okay,
including centaurs. It's another good example.
Okay, next question. I have read the Andromeda Council website, and I am fascinated with the biospheres. I would like to know if those of us who plan to remain on Gaia and ascend, whether we can explore or tour a biosphere before we leave for the new Virgin Planet. I so very much want to see the heavens from above the atmosphere. Can I?
Okay. Can I clarify this? Can I clarify this question? They ask about the people who are going to ascend to the fourth dimension, when they're going to get on the biospheres, or are they asking about the people who are not going?
Well, I said I would like to know if those of us who plan to remain on Gaia and ascend, whether we can explore or tour a biosphere before we leave.
Okay, if you're going to remain on Terra and ascend, you are not going to leave on a biosphere. If you're leaving on a biosphere, that's because you're choosing not to ascend and you're going to the pristine Virgin Planet as a 3D human being in your current body. Restored. But yes, there will be opportunity for people to go explore the biospheres and check out space, regardless of whether you decide to stick around and ascend or whether you decide to go off. You'll have a chance to explore your opportunities.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I've heard this name mentioned before, and I was wondering if any of you have heard of this person or entity, or may even know them. The name is Deathfish Darklight.
Can't say I've ever heard that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that either.
Okay. Sounds like a fictitious name to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fiction exists, but I haven't run into that particular person.
I'm afraid I may have to stop listening to your show. For the last month, every time I listen to your show, the right side of my face, jaw, and temple inflames to the point that I'm in so much pain I feel like I want to die. I'm a disabled person, and I've been in a lot of pain for over 7 years now, and I have never felt anything like this pain. 2 weeks ago, I had to take several hydrocodone capsules in order to get the pain to ebb even slightly, and then it was a day before it went away completely. Can anything be done to stop this from happening? Anything you can do would be greatly appreciated. I don't understand it.
First of all, it's not us who's doing this to you. We have heard reports of this kind of thing being done to people who are listening to the show. I don't know what this is producing this. I can guess why. It's our fan club, and they don't want you to listen. You're not the only one. At this time, I don't know how to counter it. I'm sorry for the pain. Please accept my apologies, even though it wasn't us who's doing this to you. We'll see if we can figure out how it's being done so we can counteract it. So if anybody has any evidence that might lead to us stopping this, drop it off so we can do something.
What I recommend is to, for those that are experiencing these kind of things, do some research, learn and figure out what type of personal shielding works for you, and learn the best for you as an individual, grounding, centering, and shielding methods. And being that this is something that you're experiencing every time you listen to the show, I recommend just before listening to the show and during the show, keep your focus on shielding and just returning whatever negative energy is being directed at you to whoever or whatever is sending it. And that's my best recommendation, is learn whatever shielding techniques work best for you and use those.
Okay, thank you, Sunfire. Okay, I remember a dream I had about 10 years ago that felt real back then. That of us a small space skirmish with a bunch of people using armor that look like those in the Iron Man comic books. How common is usage of this sort of thing for fighting or battle?
Well, the guy that we know in Iron Man, he does exist. But I don't know. A lot of different groups have different armaments and arms and armor. So I don't know who specifically uses stuff that looks like the Iron Man stuff. It could also be when you're dreaming, you see things that your mind interprets a certain way. It's not always literal. So they might have been wearing armor, but it might have looked nothing like the Iron Man costume. That's just what your mind interpreted.
Okay. Do beings, here we go again, do beings like is it Na'vi or Na'vi in the movie Avatar really exist?
If it can be imagined, it exists. The Na'vi exist. I don't know whether they intersect our particular universe and our particular reality as anything more than a story, but they do exist.
Okay. What kinds of clothes do ETs wear?
All kinds.
Yeah.
Are there anything like what we wear? Are they anything like what we wear here?
Some are. There are some who are absolute clothes horses and just love to play with fashion. A lot of ET fashions emphasize comfort. They don't usually go in for the, horrible torture that most female fashion is, or, the horrible strangling yourself thing that passes for business wear with men down here on Earth. They do like to design, and they do like art and color and texture, and there's all kinds of interesting fabrics and materials that they play around with. My brother likes to make clothes, and so does my fiance, and it's very fortunate because if I didn't have them, I would probably dress in a sack.
Yeah, I know her brother has designed some really beautiful outfits for myself and my brother, and even some of the others that, in our little group. And thankfully when I wake up I can see them, and sometimes I can see them before I go to sleep. Like, for example, I know this one Chalcedian, he loves a combination of steampunk and futuristic, or what we would consider futuristic. And I mean, their tastes are very broad spectrum. They're not as limited, to what we have and know here. And I mean, it's really interesting to see.
And they'll adopt to our own fashions too, like steampunk being an example. A lot of them really like the artistic effects of steampunk, even if the verdict is mostly that in terms of practicality, it isn't.
Okay. All right, next question. Thank you, Denise, for your informative radio shows with Drake on the Universal Voice. I listen regularly. It is so important these days that you invite these beautiful ladies from the Galactic Federation of Planets and the Silver Legion. No, I will say it is essential for all listeners. Thank you to Tanaath and Sunfire for being with us. A big thank you again to Drake and his efforts to end our brainwashing and give us information that nowhere else is presented but here. I have two questions, please, for Tanaath and Sunfire. Question number one, is there some truth to the Saturn moon matrix? David Icke had some very interesting things to say about it, and he is speculating that Saturn is transmitting radio signals to the moon, and that the moon is an amplifier for those signals with the purpose to create this matrix on Earth that we are actually in.
We do know that Saturn is involved. The full nature of that involvement I'm not able to disclose or discuss. The moon is also involved. Again, the full nature of that involvement I'm not able to disclose or discuss. Radio waves seems kind of I don't know if I use it. I'll put it that way.
I think radio waves is kind of a too primitive of a technique.
Okay.
It's pretty outdated.
Okay, so it wouldn't be radio waves, but there may be transmissions going on between the moon and the planet, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Question number 2. What is your opinion on the Conversations with God books from author Neil Donald Walsh? As you have told, there is a problem when someone channels information. Neil Donald Walsh isn't channeling as far as I know. I believe he gets telepathic information that he then writes down immediately. Those books feel not wrong and are very uplifting to me, even when they don't get into all this stuff that you give us extra information of. Do you know anything about Neil Donald Walsh?
That's good. I don't know anything about Neil Donald Walsh. I do get really, really leery when anybody is claiming to represent God's word, God's will, claiming to be God. Sources do not personify within their own universe, and sources do not generally do not speak directly under normal conditions. And the reason why this is because the security and confusion. If they personify, it becomes difficult for people to know whether that's really source or whether it's just something faking it. If they personify, they also cease to become, well, source. In order to be source, a source has to be everything within a universe. Once it starts being something in specific, it is no longer everything. There's a conflict there, a paradox, that removes its essential source nature. So sources generally don't do that within their own universe.
Okay, so you couldn't
Therefore, anybody who's coming to you,
a source telepathically.
Again, it would be very, very difficult to verify with 100% certainty that you were actually speaking with source. So source generally doesn't do that.
Right. Okay, gotcha. Makes sense.
But it could be something that is relaying positive information.
Is there such a thing as positive channeling of any kind?
No.
I don't know. We generally don't do it. There might be some who are less negative than others, but in general, if it's channeling, it's a form of possession. It's not exactly. It's hard to discern when you're channeling. It is hard to shut out the message as well. I've heard.
I think that's engage in possession.
Yeah.
So if it's coming from a channel source, it's not positive.
I think that is a huge source of confusion in our group, with the people, because I think that the people who are passing along information are claiming that they're receiving the information that they're sharing either telepathically or through channeling. And I don't think that the people that are sharing the information know if they're channeling or if they're actually connecting telepathically.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, channeling has become considered a legitimate source of information. So a lot of people will claim to be channeling, whether it's actually the channeled modality or not, whether it's telepathy or inner knowing or something else. They call it channeling because everybody knows channeling's real, right? Well, channeling is real, but that doesn't mean what they tell you is correct, accurate, truthful, or positive. Nor does it make those channeled entities positive.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, there are people who are researching for Alzheimer's or cancer cures, which might already exist. What type of jobs could these people do with their research and their lab expertise after these cures are disclosed?
Well, I'm sure there'll be something else that needs to be cured, and just because they have a cure that works for one thing doesn't mean that it's not a good idea to look for other things that work.
Right.
Yeah,
and
also,
researchers...
medical research still continues on in the higher dimensions all the way up.
It's just that they do it a bit differently, less poking monkeys and more energy work.
Exactly.
And they also have
so
really sophisticated computer systems that they can use for, for testing and simulation and that kind of thing that are very accurate.
Well, and as we all transition,
and more relevant
I would imagine that there's going to be unprecedented amounts of need for research of all kinds.
Oh, yeah. It's not like we're going to be out of stuff to do once this happens, guys. There's going to be a lot of stuff to do.
A lot of things to learn and a lot of things to, absolutely.
Even if your particular line of work no longer exists, I'm sure there's something that you've been itching to do.
Exactly.
There'll be an opportunity.
And their opportunity will present itself to do the things you've always dreamed of doing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. You mentioned your living existing of few material possessions and even going from dwelling to dwelling when traveling and staying at vacant dwellings or sharing on other occasions and making your habitat available as well. Excuse me. Do you have any idea if that is how we will roll in 4D or something similar to now with individual dwellings or combinations of all? I just can't extrapolate that thought here in 3D. You and Sunfire are so very special. Thank you so much.
I don't know how people are going to choose to do it here, if they're going to choose to stay in permanent dwellings or not. I plan on, living on my ships again. I guess the ship, it's kind of like a portable house. You got all the amenities of home and all the excitement of traveling between the stars. My living situation hasn't been entirely voluntary, but I haven't sweated it too much because I understand that these things are transient and I'm really not all that concerned with material possessions. I have what I need to survive and even to thrive, though certainly I would like to see great changes on this world that give everybody what they need to survive and thrive.
Okay. Sorry
from what I understand, there'll be different. There'll be, whatever. There'll be multiple different, options as far as living conditions and stuff for, whatever people want that will suit their specific needs and preferences.
Okay. All right. Sorry in advance for the length of this question. It's hard for me to put into context. How do you visualize 4D and our domestic companions? If we have the ability to converse telepathically, will our relationships differ? For instance, will my dogs say, hey, I think I'm going to hit the road, or my parrot tell me we're out of here, or will we be closer in relationship? Are pets, and by the way, I hate the word pet, even an issue in 4D? Or will our 4D, again, be an experiment with no benchmark for the human/companion relationship scenario?
We do have animal companions in the higher dimensions. In a lot of cases, I don't think your dog or your parrot or your cat or your pet anything is going to hit the road unless you're abusive. Most of the time, our animal companions love us, especially if we love them. Mm-hmm. The relationships deepen. There's a lot more communication. I know cats in particular often volunteer to be spirit guardians. Anybody who's ever watched a cat flip out at nothing, well, they might not be flipping out at nothing, just something you can't see. But yeah, animals remain part of our day-to-day life, and we don't consider them pets either. We consider them companions. And a lot of times they're free to come and go as they like, and you care for them when they come. When they come around, you care for them. You give them food and water and shelter and companionship, and they'll stick around. And when it comes to some animals like alicorns or unipegs, you don't own them; they own you.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, in my personal experience with my alicorn, unipeg, however you want to call it. She's been with me since before this universe even existed, and she is down here with me on the surface now, and we've been together far longer than I can remember at this point. And yeah, Unipegs, they definitely own you. It's not the other way around. And even, on the planets where the Unipegs inhabit, they're free to come and go as they choose. And they're perfectly happy to stick around, and they form very strong bonds with the people that they decide to permit to be in their lives and that they decide to look after. I mean, it's not just like they own you kind of thing. They look after you. They guide you spiritually. They guide you and, mentor you and protect you. And so, I mean, the exchange and companionship and everything else is very well balanced. And you learn to accept the fact that when they have an opinion about something, they are always right.
Okay. Not to waste anybody's time, we do have a lot of new members on Universal Voice, and I don't know if they're new listeners or not, but in 29 minutes we will be transitioning into overtime. The show will end, and you must be dialed in to Blog Talk in order to continue listening. Otherwise, your player will stop, and you have to wait and listen to the archive. But the archive will always be there, so that's okay. So don't panic if you lose connection. All right. Next question is for Drake. Drake, I have been collecting the gold $1 coins as I come across them. Are these worth holding on to in case the paper dollar does lose its value, or am I wasting my time?
You want to get 1964 and before coin. It's called junk silver. Probably end up having to get that at a dealer.
These $1 gold
I don't recommend other kinds of coins. The dollar coins don't mean much. They're copper. They're made out of copper and clad. So what you want is silver content 60-80%, so that you have something of value that's usable. That's the idea behind this. Okay.
Okay. For Tanaath and Sunfire, do you know anything about Maldek, Maldek?
Yes, we do. It was a planet in this solar system at one point, in the orbit roughly represented by the asteroid field. Actually, the asteroid belt is Maldek and Serona.
And what isn't in the asteroid belt is in the Kepler belt and also the rings of Saturn, and a few chunks became the moons of Jupiter. It was involved in they were destroyed during the Orion Wars, which were about 400 to 450 million years ago. It was also when the Earth's crust got cracked by the shock waves that was caused by the destruction of Maldek, which happened quite accidentally.
Yep, it was an accident. No, okay. I didn't do it. The one who did it, his name now reflects this fact, and he still gets teased about it. He was off a decimal point, I think. So this is a testament to always check your math.
Yes, please.
Anyhow, Maldek was not exactly a great planet, and we have seen from observing other timelines in which Maldek persisted that it might actually have been beneficial to get rid of it. But at the same time, that was one of those, colossal oops that goes down in this galaxy's history.
Okay.
A really, really positive oops.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Serona also took the hit since it was in the same orbit as Maldek, just at a different. They were equidistant.
Yeah, there's a slight separation or distance, but I mean they're fairly close together.
Okay, this next one is from one of our listeners, Eric. Okay, Eric wants to know. He says, "I remember now. Not technically a question." But Tanaath was discussing atheism on another program and wanted to put some input into it. To me, I've got kind of a BS detector in my brain. Mainstream religion is what drove me to this. It's hard to believe in anything when you know deep down that everything you hear is a lie. To add to this, there is something about the these interviews with Tanaath. It's almost to the point at which I'm living it as she is discussing it. I can't explain it. I do know in searching for similar interviews, trying to get more information, I have had the complete opposite. I'm not sure where this is coming from, but I was listening to Stuart Swerdlow the other day, and something seems off. What can you help? Can you help me? Can you comment on this?
People will find that truth resonates with them. Now, my truth is resonating, I guess, with this person particularly strongly. That does not mean my truth is going to be truth for everyone, but likely this person is gaining some benefit from this, and may possibly share in this truth as well.
Okay.
I can't guarantee that everybody else is going to. You know, it's a your mileage may vary situation very much. I'm glad that it's resonating with someone. That's good to know.
I think you resonate with a lot of people to know.
That's good. You know, I'm not here to try to spread a lot of BS. I'm not here to feed the fear porn. I'm not here to shove my belief system down anybody's faces or throats. I'm here to represent what I know and what I feel to be true, which may not be true for everyone else, but it is for me.
Mhm. Absolutely. And same for Sunfire and, of course, Drake. You know, and for that we are very thankful.
And I think that my truth is one that's very friendly and very inclusive. You don't have to beat yourself up to get it. You don't have to knock yourself over the head or scrape your forehead in the dirt in order to have this reality. It doesn't require that you give up anything that makes your life beautiful in order to do this. In fact, it encourages you to think for yourself, to take steps to be an active participant in your own life. It does not encourage passivity. It encourages activity and awareness and seeking as opposed to being fed shit, pardon my language. It doesn't require that you follow somebody else's word in order to survive or even just have a decent life. I think anything that does is inherently unfriendly and anti-human at its base. If somebody's telling you to follow orders, they don't necessarily have your best interests in mind. They have their own, and that might not be the same thing at all.
Okay. Thank you. This next question is for you, Drake, and it's not necessarily pertinent to tonight's show. When will you be releasing the next part of your book? I'm working hard on the first part, and I would appreciate having the other part to study along with. For me, anyway, it's time to get her done. And another question was, have Tanaath and Sunfire had any input, or does anything in your book relate to your working with Tanaath and Sunfire?
No, not yet. And I'm looking at starting that book this week. So that second book will be coming out.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Drake. Yep. Okay, Drake, Cabal in relation to gold, knowing that the Cabal use gold to finance their activities via at least the banking system, if one comes across a large find of gold, is there an option to exchange it in a manner that is not slave to the Cabal?
That's going to be interesting. If you come across something that is a large cache of that, contact me and we'll find out where it came from and things of this nature, and we can make a better informed decision on that. Okay? Okay.
I've heard the expression that Earth is a prison planet, as Alex Jones calls it, the prison planet. Is it possible that the electric fence, radio waves, and electronic white noise might be keeping the humans at bay in regards to the evolution? Does the moon have anything to do with any of it, and why?
Yes, and yes, As for why, there are a lot of different things that have been used to keep humans trapped on this planet and human consciousness down. The moon was the basis for a lot of this. The moon is an artificial satellite. It was brought here by the reptoids. It has been used for a base, to house equipment, to cause various problems for us, including, as I've spoken before, about the soul traps and the reincarnation traps. Some of that was based on the moon. There are other things, some of which I'm not at liberty to discuss at this time. But yes, the moon is a problem. We're working on making it less so.
Okay, this is for you, Tanaath. You explained in another interview how to set up a shield, both personal and environmental. I have to tell you that in almost 25 years, you are the first and only one who has ever explained step-by-step how to do it. You gave me goosebumps.
That's odd, because I had step-by-step instruction when I was learning. I also received instruction from certain works of fiction which involved these principles, and I found them to be real when I tried them and said, hey, this works. Actually, there's one fiction author, fantasy author in particular, who has some really, really good stuff. Mercedes Lackey, if you read some of her Herald stuff, now there is a lady who knows what she's doing. Now, I won't say that, all of it is. Some of it's a fictional universe, well, to us, but a lot of that stuff is actually pretty good material. But, there are ways to find instruction in this. I'm not the only one who's giving out instruction. Check the hidden paths on the internet, try forums, try small communities, but it's very much caveat emptor. Be careful with anything you do before you try an exercise, especially if it involves geometric figures or shapes. Do your own gut check, your own truth check. Find out, okay, is this actually in my best interest? This is going to further my own development, or is this helping somebody else? Whether or not that helps me, do your truth checks, put it through your gut, see what your gut says. I'm not very good at giving step-by-step instructions for everything. The few things I will do are grounding, centering, and shielding, because those are the things I know and I use every day. You get into the more advanced stuff, you might be better off finding somebody who specializes in that kind of thing. They exist. You go searching for them, you'll find them. And
you got to be careful not to step in it in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, and when it comes to doing meditations and visualizations, I would caution people against using anything geometric unless you are well versed in sacred geometry and know all of the ways in which that could be used. So if you're going around making yourself a Merkaba, make sure you fully understand what that can be used in all of its ways, because it may not be as beneficial to you as you've been led to believe. A lot of these geometric figures can be used in other ways. All you need to do is make a little difference or have somebody do it a certain way, and poof, it goes from being a vehicle of enlightenment to being a prison.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Next question. You guys said to ask any beings that we might encounter 3 times, are you of the light? Are there any tips on what to do if they say no? And how do we defend ourselves?
Punch them in the face.
Send them away. Tell them, I will not interact with you. Leave. Don't interact with me. I do not give you permission to interact with me. If they persist, that's when you start fighting back. Either get your guardians to help you, or if you're capable, do it yourself. If they say no, now in some circumstances you may get a dark-oriented being who is not evil. I would still recommend proceeding with caution.
Okay.
That's
most
the point
people
where you
have
start
to understand
asking
something
further.
here. A lot of people miss this. Novices that are starting out are protected to an extent. That does not mean you can be an idiot and go running through a bunch of cows and expect not to step in something. But if you use general common sense, and common sense does apply to these fields, these areas, you generally will be all right. If you sense or feel something that don't feel right, turn around and walk away.
Yep,
Pretty
get
simple.
out of there or send them away if they came to you. If it's making you feel a little iffy, if it's making you feel a little off, you're not obligated to take its BS. Send it away or go.
Okay.
This is like, those like us and Alex Collier and Tolik have been so insistent on people developing their instincts, their intuition, getting to know themselves inside and out, and getting to know what abilities they do and don't have. Your instincts and your gut are your strongest guide and your most accurate one.
Yeah, and just because something is not physical human does not mean automatically that what it's telling you is the truth. And a lot of these things will use little things that you're thinking, oh, nobody could know that. If they know that, well, they must be telling the truth. No. Information travels. Even if they know the name of your childhood pet or your pet rock or your favorite TV show when you were 5, even if they know things that you think nobody else could know, that does not mean they're legitimate. It does not mean they have your best interests in mind. It does not mean they're your friend. Exercise caution. A lot of things will use that kind of parlor trick. They'll call you by name. They'll tell you things about yourself that you think, oh, man, nobody knows that but me. And they'll do that as a method to gain your trust.
Okay.
The ones who actually deserve your trust don't need to resort to that kind of parlor trick to get it.
Last show, you guys spoke of the subversion of Procyon by negative forces. Just curious, but weren't fourth dimensionals able to know people's intentions and when they are lying? If so, did the negative forces mask their intentions somehow?
Yes, they did mask their intentions somehow. This is discussed to great detail in the Bibliotheca Pleiades site that Sunfire mentioned. Again, you're going to want to look for Kyla, Khyla. Look for his story. He's from Procyon, and he's one of the ones who watched this happening, got out alive, lived to tell the tale, and was part of the resistance that freed Procyon less than 20 years ago.
Okay, that was Kyla, Khyla.
Yes,
right?
And that's a man's name.
Okay, and yeah, because I think they were searching for Kyla. They kept asking,
yeah, it's
where is that
Khyla.
website? Where do we go? Yeah, they kept asking where they go for that.
It's bibliotecapleiades.net.
Bibliotecapleiades.net.
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody
got that?
I'll
I hope.
spell it. I can spell it. Hang on a second. Okay, it's BiblioTecapleiades.net.
Okay.
And you just go to the little tab, which will be your, where you can, that says search, and you click on that, and then put in the little search box, Kyla, and the word Procyon, and it'll come up.
Okay. And again, Kyla is Khyla, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
That's one thing I've noticed about
the
Procyon names is they often have an H in there somewhere.
Okay. That's indicative of Procyon. Okay. Please, Tanaath, your take on a dream, a very lucid and colorful dream. A bunch of people were in an apartment looking and watching a rural road directly aligned with the home, and everyone was expecting something, and the word was not to get out, or fear of the unknown. Can you elucidate on why I might be dreaming this?
No, it's hard for me to interpret dreams, even lucid ones. When it comes to dreams, I don't think, there might be, some people believe that there's universal symbolism in dreams. I think that there's a combination of some universal symbolism and there's a combination of highly personal symbolism. And when it comes to your own dreams, the best interpreter is yourself. You got to ask yourself, what does this mean to you? I used to have recurring dreams of tornadoes. Now, I live in a place where tornadoes occur quite frequently, and I have seen them with my own eyes. And I used to have these dreams of tornadoes that would just come from out of nowhere and swoop down and pwn the environment, and I'd be trying to find shelter. Once I realized that these were metaphors for stress and change and feeling out of control in my life, I stopped having those dreams. So as soon as I picked up on what the symbolism represented to me, I stopped having those dreams. I've had other dreams like this where, I've had some symbolism that keeps recurring to me, and then as soon as I figure out the symbolism, I stop having the dreams. This is why I'm saying it's really up to you. Tornadoes to somebody else might mean something else. I've dreamed of fish. Fish, I found out, means information to me, to my subconsciousness. So when I'm dreaming of fishing, I'm dreaming of finding information.
Right.
Think about what these symbols mean to you.
Right. One of these days, Tanaath, not on the listener's time, I'm going to have to ask you about a recurring dream I've had since I was a very wee little girl. Okay.
I still dream of the farm I grew up on. It's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Please ask these questions for the 50-plus years old hugging guy from Canada. I have a very young heart. I know you don't want to give times, but at least approximate, if you might. Are we going to 4D in the next year or so? I know this is not for sure. Drake has mentioned that there is a galactic clock and that this change from 3 to 4D is going to happen soon. Is it soon? How soon is soon? Is it half a year, 2 years, or more? Just a ballpark.
I'd give it within the next year or two, though I couldn't give a firm date. These things are estimates, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. You gotta understand.
Because it's January 14th, 2014, and if that turns out to be right, I'll be thrilled.
One thing you gotta understand is this is a cosmic event. We cannot predict cosmic events, not even the best precogs and time seers and time travelers and everything else in the universe.
But nailing it down to a 3D time frame is a lot harder, especially when you're dealing with people who are operating from timeless consciousnesses. Predicting times becomes even harder.
Okay. The next question is, are the Liberation extra and terrestrial forces going to remove the cabal before the switch from 3D to 4D? It is very clear to me that if they are not removed, the TV will still be controlled by them, and therefore the people will have no chance to make an informed decision, since most of the population, at least probably 99%, will never believe anything about this from the Internet sources if it is not official. The television is programming that people, as programmed that all people information from the Internet is not valid. This is a question also for the Andromeda Council and the Galactic Federation of Planets.
A lot of that is the responsibility of the Terrans, especially the militia and the military. People have got to understand the ETs are not gods, they're not saviors, and they're not going to do everything for the population. We are here to help. We're not here to do it for you.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there is some onus on Terrans themselves to do some work here. And don't think just because the mainstream media keeps flabbing out its idiot message that everybody is blind. I think you will find that you will be pleasantly surprised that the number of people who are at least aware that something ain't right is very, very large indeed.
A lot of mainstream polls show that about at least, I would say, 80% on average of Americans, and probably a similar percentage, do believe in UFOs and aliens.
Okay. What is the best organization to join after the transformation for an individual like me who dreams of space exploration, and I'm a great fan of Star Trek? I like logical diagrams and computer programming applied in engineering. Does the Silver Legion need also technical guys that will not necessarily fight in battles? I also have a very big attraction to the Federation due to the Star Trek influence.
Yeah, we do need engineers, and as for the best, well, that would be up to you, because there's a lot of potential good fits there among the Galactic Federation of Planets, among Silver Legion, among the Andromeda Council, among various groups that are involved. You're going to have ample opportunity to get out there and explore and have fun and be engineering. We do have an engineering corps in the Silver Legion. It's headed by a person who is considered fictitious and who we have spoken of previously.
Okay.
When he came to us, he came to us from his universe, he basically stepped out of the portal at the Silver Legion headquarters, spotted our attempts at making scout craft, and said, "Spaceships? Nobody told me there'd be spaceships." And we haven't been able to keep him away. So his personal scout craft is called the Highball.
My brother, aside from being a physicist, he also is into engineering and building things, and there's been times we've literally had to take crowbars between the two of them to get them away from their fun that they've been having to, sleep, eat, rest, do something else.
And he has never, ever, ever heard of freezing the design either. The Highball goes through constant changes. I know a lot of people who won't set foot on that thing.
Okay. Question for Sunfire. On what is the planet or star system in our galaxy with the very beautiful women? Since I am looking for a lot of hugs, even if I admire the Andrones because they kick reptilian asses, I'm not inclined to go there.
Actually, there are a lot of different planets that have a lot of very beautiful people, and majority of them really do like hugs. I haven't yet, especially among the positives, found one that doesn't. And as far as beauty, I very much hold on to the saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What one person or individual sentient being considers beautiful may not be considered beautiful to another. And so, variety is the spice of life, and infinite combinations, infinite diversity. Jump on it.
And you might not find somebody physically appealing and still be able to adore them as a being. We recently ran across a positive species of methane breathers. To them, we're the ugliest things they ever laid eyes on. They're not far from it themselves to us, like to our sensibilities. But, oh boy, are they ever beautiful in heart, and they feel the same about us.
Okay, next question is all imagination information from God as a message to us? I have a very active imagination. What's the difference between getting insight and getting delusions?
Well, first I want to say that, it would be hard to say as far as the person did not define what they consider God. When it comes to inspiration, it's usually coming from your higher self. And delusion is a term that was invented by the reptoids to try to suppress the imagination and creative aspects of the individual being. I suggest reading a book called The Enlightenment. It can be found on the Unicus magazine website. You just go to the article, click on the link for articles, and there's one called The Enlightenment. It's a PDF. Read it. You'll get your answer.
Yep.
I highly recommend the book.
And as for imagination and delusion, I would say that there are, anything you can imagine is real. It exists somewhere. Not all of it exists close, and not all of it intersects with our current reality. As to how to tell, I think you'd have to use your discernment. I literally ask my gut, my solar plexus chakra. It usually keeps me steered pretty good.
Okay. What can you tell us about Glenn Beck's, this is for Drake, about Glenn Beck's recent announcement that the next 10 days are going to be history-making, and he's going to be making an announcement within the next 24 hours. Okay, so this 24-hour thing was from Glenn Beck.
Yeah, how about that? He managed to cause more fun and games with his righteous BS. What can I tell you? Well, depends on whether you want reality. If you want reality, I don't suggest listening to Glenn Beck because I haven't heard a definitive answer from the man yet. And I've followed him off and on for quite a while. I've listened to Rush Limbaugh. Prison Planet, come on. It just goes on and it doesn't stop. There seems to be no limit to the capability of people to get caught in a whole lot of horse hockey and find themselves drowning in it if they continue to partake. So I don't suggest all that. What do I think of it? Horse hockey. Next.
Okay. This next question is rather interesting. I was recently at a spiritual center where a guest minister/healer was doing her thing. She began to clap her hands, etc., and supposedly cut cords of negative entities she described as attached to individuals. I literally got ill in the same room with the supposed healer and excused myself. It appeared quite an abusive display to certain individuals that she singled out.
I want to talk about this one.
Was she actually the negative entity or the nasty ET?
I want to talk about this one. I've heard anecdotes from a friend of mine who, went to something like this and experienced something very similar. Now, the friend that I've known this friend for a long, long time. This person is nothing if not loving and caring and giving and positive and full of light. But she was having these violent symptoms, physical symptoms, which were interpreted at the retreat as evidence of healing or that she'd had bad stuff coming out. And when she first described this to me, I thought, oh my God, this is abusive. No, that person did not get anything out of a person. She imposed it upon them. That's what happened.
The person doing this is actually the negative entity, right?
Yeah, that's the one that's doing it. It's not, it's not that the person who's suffering the symptoms is a bad person or anything like that. It's the person who's suggesting it and causing it and using, for lack of a better term, magic or emotional suggestion or, power with emotional backing and suggestive backing to produce that symptom. I don't know whether the person is a negative ET or something else, but the person who's doing that is definitely abusive. And this, the reaction is being held as proof that it's working. No, the reaction is imposed upon you. And I knew this was a problem when my friend described it to me, because there is no way in heck that my friend was as filthy and riddled with evil as those symptoms were made to suggest.
There was no evil to be excised out of your friend.
No.
Yeah. Okay. It makes perfect sense. They have these large gatherings and stuff like that as brainwashing attempts and things like that. They really do. And people have to be very careful about who and what you expose yourself to.
Yes, and you do. You have to be careful, because just because it's real doesn't mean it's right. Yes,
Exactly.
these symptoms are real. Yes, there was a real reaction. That doesn't mean that the explanation they give you for why it was real is accurate.
Okay. How do you think we will see crop circles develop in the Monsanto GMO crop fields, and will it be announced in the mainstream media? I'm sure looking forward to this, as many are, I'm sure.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. I've never known the mainstream media to do much announcing on crop circles, but there's a lot of, off the beaten track sites where they do.
Yeah, we don't know what specific crop circles the ETs are going to be doing and whether they'll be announced in the mainstream media or not. But I was told personally by some of the ETs we communicate with that they have every intention of having some real fun with those. We're looking forward to seeing what develops.
Okay, this is a question for Drake regarding crop circles. Is there a legitimate or good place that we could research crop circles, and where, what we know to be the signature of certain crop circles, like are they from certain groups of ETs? Are they calling cards left by different ET groups?
Yes. This is.
Is there a place that you can?
Okay, here's basically what happened with crop circles. About 10 years ago, give or take, you started getting crop circles that were not crop circles. And anybody who knows what a crop circle is knows the difference. The main gist of the problem was that when the bad guys discovered what exactly was going on, they decided to adjust what they were doing to better fit the fun and games. They wanted to join in. So the process of their joining in put out a whole bunch of bogus crop circles. Unless you know and have studied signet, that is a signet-type ring. It deals directly with geometry, geometric value, and sacred geometry, as well as present-day geometry. It also goes into just about every science known to man. If, and this is the if, you know these things and are very relatively familiar and or have the capacity to really look them up, you may, by accident, find out what a real crop circle is all about. The other problem is that regular everyday people decided to go drink a quart of Who Hit John and go out and play in the crop fields. That did not help things. Now, a lot of that showed up to be what it was. It's obviously a hoax. It was obviously not done correctly. And there are certain things that everybody can look at to tell whether or not it's a real crop circle or not. The sciences, and this is another problem, are now well known to just about everybody that has any interest. So you also got the minor problem of the fact that because these people know who play technical games and act like, we're ET, or whatever, because they have the same technical capabilities as the people who are actually putting down, writing, formulating the true crop circles, now you got a bunch of bogus stuff. And it has steadily increased up to a point where people started discounting crop circles in general. In some cases, there are ways, so long as you know what's going on, to be able to tell the difference. And most people, I can look at one and generally tell yes or no. It's real quick. There are messages in these things. Some of them are hilarious messages. Some of them, although
such as close your mouth, you're attracting flies.
Yeah, well, when
really?
when you
that's what I've seen in there at Universal Symbol Language.
I've seen even, what was it, we come in pieces, please bring Allen wrench, and then another one was pull lever, receive bacon.
I like cheese, showed up a couple times.
This is where the fun begins. Some of these things are not as innocent as they might seem. Now, people have been warned tonight that there are things that go bump in the night that are not nice. You really need to take that to heart and pay attention, and here's why. When the configuration is of a certain manner, done in the correct procedures, and you even look at it, some of these things are designed in such a manner that they can actually cause problems for you on a strictly mental basis. People talk about mind control. You want to understand it, experience it once. But be with someone who understands what you're doing, exactly what's going on, and can take care of the problem. Do not play with these things. If you go into magic and theory and practice, and this involves envisionment, this involves your capability to cause things to come to fruition or manifest, as it were, if somebody does that and does not do it correctly, you will be led down a nice little primrose path, and when you get to the end of it, there's no place to go. And in terms of mental capacity and capability, it's a real good idea not to play with things that can eat you up, and I don't necessarily mean that in the manner that your food, although that can be. You need to be very careful not to get involved with the things that can be totally and permanently, not just disabling, but damaging. In other words, an individual who gets their cranium, their brains, overloaded, and it can be sensory or otherwise, can have a tendency to start burning out the connections. A lot of people experienced that back in the hippie days of the 60s. Too much LSD did things to your head, and you never was right again. If that's the kind of experience you really want, do what you want. I'm going to tell you no, but you need to be very, very careful about crop circles. First of all, to find something genuine. And secondly, some of them do contain information well beyond what most people can glean from it, because they're not familiar with the geometries, they're not familiar with the present sciences, they're not familiar with the advanced sciences, theoretical mathematics, and a whole bunch of stuff. When you place something on the planet, if you do so in a certain manner, it has physical results. It can be a toothpick, it can be a 2x4, a piece of steel, doesn't matter. Depends on whether or not you know what you're doing with it. When you do, the whole world changes. Then you know what not to step in. And believe me, nobody wants to step in that stuff. So the process of crop circles, many of them are genuine. Many of them also are perpetrated by people in the cabal who do have similar, and in some cases the same technologies or technological capabilities as a lot of the ETs. Most of this has been taken care of. By that I mean their cute little flying saucers are having dead batteries. It's out of gas. The tire's flat. You name it. Inconveniences, but it keeps them out of the air, keeps them from screwing with people. They cannot play the games of putting a crop circle out that says the world's coming to an end and is relatively done correctly. They don't have that capability right now. So most of what you're going to see in terms of crop circles presently, and I haven't heard of very many lately, to be honest with you, should be pretty much correct. Learn how to read them. You've got three or four different ways. Five ways that it would be obvious in terms of reading them. Universal symbolism was mentioned. The other one is the sacred and other geometries. Another one is mathematics, and the main one is knowing conditions and positions of things presently, and what that thing shows in terms of present condition changing to something else. So, yeah, look at your crop circles, but learn what you're looking at. Crop circles, let's see here. Put crop circle in Google, and you're going to get a whole bunch of things. When they include edifices and or ancient markings, those sites are probably a little more valid than others. Okay?
Thank you, Drake. Okay, we've still got like 9 pages of questions. I'm going to try to rapid fire you as many as I can, everybody. I can't believe the questions are great questions. I just can't believe the number of questions that are flying in. In fact, I've asked them to hold off asking more questions right now and see if we don't answer what they're asking. Okay. All right. What are the EMVs, or electromagnetic vehicles, that are spoken of in the book The Ring Makers of Saturn by Dr. Norman Berggren and spoken about by James Horak, that are evident in the rings of Saturn and around the Sun?
They're not EMVs. That's one source that just drives me up the wall. There's various ET groups that are involved in, the planet Saturn, involved in things around the Sun, etc. None of them had anything to do with making the rings around Saturn. Those were made when Maldek and Corona exploded during the Orion Wars about 400 to 450 million years ago.
Okay. I always thought that the blue people in the movie Avatar were portraying the blue people in Indian texts. If not, who are the Indian blue people, or is Avatar anywhere close to reality?
The Indian blue people are different from what's displayed in the movie Avatar. The Indian blue people came from the...
Isn't that Ventra?
Yeah, I think so. And they also came from the Pegasus constellation.
Okay. All right. I keep saying okay. I'm sorry. The new Star Trek movie, in the opening scene, took place on Nibiru, and they were trying to stop a natural disaster. Was there a reason for them using that, or was it just a coincidence?
It's the cabal trying to further propagate the psyops that is Nibiru and the big bad oogie boogie.
Yeah. It's the same reason they destroyed Vulcan, which, as any fan of the franchise is properly incensed over. The destruction of Vulcan in the new reboot of the series was nothing more than a fist shake at the Galactic Federation of Planets.
And a very thinly veiled threat to which we just said,
yeah, they can't even back it up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Regarding channeling, how do you understand the work of Abraham Hicks? Is he a channeler?
I'm not familiar, I'm afraid.
Me either.
Rick, are you familiar with Abraham Hicks?
Yeah. One of the things I've been doing is going through the emails and making sure that I look at a lot of this stuff. And I'm going to say this very, very succinctly. It's real simple. Channeling sucks a big one. And the reason it does is because it does not have the validity of a real, clean, pure communication. What happens during channeling is simply that you give yourself over to another entity. Whenever anybody does that, it's the same thing as torture. You lose the validity of that which you are trying to acquire. And it doesn't get much more simple than that. Okay?
Gotcha. Thank you, Drake. I keep hearing what sounds like actual jingle bells in my left ear. It is actually very pleasant, and it cracks me up. Also, almost like a tiny wind chime. Last week I was hearing a buzzing, which sounded like insects talking, and that was in my right ear. Do you know if this has anything to do with ascension? I enjoy listening to you speak, by the way.
ear tones and ringing and that kind of thing. A lot of the times that is, I don't know if I'd call it a part of ascension, but it's definitely a part of what's going on. Yeah, it's a vibrational change.
Mhm. Okay. Drake, my understanding is that Sir Lawrence Gardner wrote about other values of gold. Also, a man named Hudson discovered Ormus, ORMUS, I think it is. White powder gold was used for anti-gravity and for enlightenment when eaten. The pharaohs used a white powdered gold or ormus to give them the insight to lead the people. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, I know enough not to mess with it, let's put it that way. Whenever you get into the idea of substances, specifically those that might be foreign to your physiology, it's never a good idea to go playing with it. Now, in terms of learning about it.
Monatomic gold, they said? Okay.
Well, in terms of learning about it, that's a little different subject. In terms of not being subject to fun and games from it, be very careful what you do. That's all you got to remember. Okay?
Okay. Knowing that the ultimate goal is to awaken people and move up the ladder, the knowledge to improve on human DNA is there. How about unlocking the telepathy capabilities for all species at the same time? Will that be possible, or will that happen?
It's not a matter of genetic engineering, somebody going in and tinkering around and giving you this. It's a matter of you will naturally regain this when your genetic code is naturally healed at transition.
Yeah.
Or if you're a 3D person going on to be a 3D person on another planet in this current incarnation, the healing modalities used by the Andromeda Council will restore that without altering it. I believe they use an extrapolation basis. So, no, it's not somebody running around willy-nilly handing out powers. It's what you already should have and should have naturally getting restored to you.
And it's not something that can just be, like released. We can't just release with, broadcasters or something, of that ilk to, an energy field to the entire planet and automatically everybody gets telepathy. It doesn't work like that.
Okay. I'm going to ask in advance. I didn't even ask you if you ladies were available to stay a little bit of overtime, and I apologize. That was rude.
Of course, yeah.
But I also, based on the fact that we still have 9 pages of questions that we have not covered, I wanted to ask if it would be possible once again to tentatively schedule for next Wednesday to have you rejoin us yet once again, because
I
it just
suspect
seems
we're going to
that
have to make this a regular feature.
Either of you.
I think that's what, probably would be the best thing to do is just start making this a regular feature on Wednesdays.
I may have some days when I'm delayed, but should be able to make it to most.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies. I really, really appreciate that. And Drake, I hope that's okay by you. I know you were enjoying your Wednesday off. Okay. Let's see. Ladies, what can we do to strengthen our intuitive abilities before we even ascend to 4D? Where can one concentrate on?
My best suggestion is start using them, because you got to think about your abilities like muscles. The more you use them, the stronger they're going to get.
Stop doubting yourself too. The biggest barrier that people have to using their own abilities is their own sense of doubt. And the whole, is this real? Is this real? Start from the proposition that it is real and go from there. And then when you experience things that you can later discard as, okay, that can be discarded, I don't have to hold on to that, that's fine. But start from the proposition that it's real.
Okay. We partially answered this next question already, but she wants to extrapolate on it, rather. My daughter wants to know what childbirth will be like in the 4th dimension and what will happen if she is pregnant as we ascend. In other words, I think they're wanting to know if she will have to go through the regular childbirth and labor and all that kind of stuff, or if she should be pregnant during Ascension, if there will be another method for her to, like have that baby without all the hiccups and the usual.
Now, as somebody who's done this personally, it's a lot more fun in higher dimensions.
Not nearly as painful.
I haven't done it down here in this lifetime. I have done it in other lives, and I think I actually died once in the process of it down here. Up there, I've done it quite a bit, enough to know that there's no pain, there's no blood. It's not like down here where you are birthed in blood and pain, and some people really like to pound in over and over and over again. Up there, it's a lot more gentle. It's an amazing, no epidural. It's an amazing experience. Some people find it very pleasurable. There is a huge sense of connection between you and your child.
As it should be.
A lot of the reason why we don't have fast. Yeah.
Well, and then also you can communicate telepathically to your child while you're carrying it. But I mean, for those that don't want to go through the whole effort or the whole experience of carrying a child in the higher dimensions, there are several other methods, including just directly manifesting one with your mate or your lover or husband or wife or whatever you want to call it. And I think Tolik explained for those that are pregnant during the time that the transition happens, they will be born as a fourth-dimensional child versus, being, born as a three-dimensional baby. And then for those that are actually giving birth when the specific transition point hits, that there'll be people from like the Andromeda Council, the Galactic Federation of the Planets, etc., to assist the mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And another question is about childbirth and everything. Will it strictly, as it is now, be the woman's thing to give birth?
I know some males who do this.
Yeah, it varies from race to race and species to species. I do know of among
between individuals.
Yeah, and I do know among the Federation there are a few races and species that the males do carry the young, and even I know of one off the top of my head where the entire race, they're humanoid, or humans actually, come to think about it, and they're both male and female, and they have both the full male and full female body parts, and so any one individual can carry a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only species I ever knew of where the male had anything to do with it was a seahorse.
Right.
Yep, good fathers.
Yep. Okay. Are there people among us who are not sentient beings, but more like bots in a video game? I'm talking about those whose entire consciousness seems composed of programs that cannot be busted, no matter what logic you provide them with. If so or not, then who are these people? Just who are they?
Well, if you're either dealing with something like a biological robot or a clone, or you're dealing with somebody who's so heavily mind-controlled that they can't break out of it.
Okay. Can you give us a short, sweet self-hypnosis script or meditation, assuming that we know how to shift into alpha, theta, or even deep delta while awake, as I am able to do, that will effectively activate our DNA that is currently shut down?
I don't really play around much with hypnosis, self or otherwise. I can't give you a script, sorry.
Yeah, I don't get involved in any of that. Sorry.
Okay.
I think it's more important to research and find the one that works and feels right for you with your own gut.
Your DNA will change on its own. I'd be really careful with anything claiming to activate you.
Makes sense. Thank you very much. Okay, as if you don't have enough questions, I'm going to ask you one. If you live off-grid in a remote location like I do in Arizona, the high desert, Is there any way to signal a ship to land to get you the hell out of here? I'm not joking.
Unfortunately, at this time, I don't think that civilian pickups are possible.
And right now, I don't recommend it because unless you specifically know the people, you may may find yourself getting into a really bad situation.
Yeah, a situation that you can't easily get out of. So, I just hold on a little bit. Don't ever get, if you do get contact with somebody, take the time to establish a trust relationship. Make sure you really trust them and understand them. Don't just get willy-nilly and hop into the first spacecraft that presents itself. That's a bad idea. It's just like you wouldn't get into a stranger's white cube van just because they're offering you candy. It's the same principle. Don't take rides from strangers.
Right.
I totally agree.
Okay. Will a replicator make a sandwich as well as a fender for a bicycle, say? Or will it take different types of replicators? Yeah, replicators, some of them are specific to, say, food or clothing, but most are multi-purpose units. I know that the Federation has a portable unit that is about the size of, if anybody's ever seen them, one of those Eliminator portable battery packs. Same sort of size and weight, although probably a different shape. And those can do camping gear, survival items, food, clothing, medicine. They can give you a portable shelter that you can construct yourself fairly simply that will be fairly weatherproof. No more dome tents collapsing in the middle of a rainstorm like in my childhood. That kind of thing. Heck, they'll even do anvils and steel if you're like me and you like to play with a forge. The bigger units, the household units, generally do household things, furniture, clothes, food, cutlery and plates. They'll demanifest them too, so when you're done with your meal, you take the dirty plate back, stick it under, tell it to demanifest, and it does. Industrial models will pop out houses and buildings and large-scale infrastructure, things like that. Military models will pump out armor and armaments and things like that. Shipyard models will pump out ships. So different replicator styles do different things. You don't want to have generally you don't have true multi-purpose that does it all, because you don't necessarily want to get your chicken nuggets out of the same thing you're getting your spaceship out of. It might not be. It might not make sense.
Yeah. Plus, usually the ones that provide sandwiches are a different one than the ones that provide the ships. There's like a good significant size difference.
Yeah. And for instance, if you were living on a Silver Legion or Federation ship, there would be a communal dining area or a gathering place, and there'd be replicators there that you would be able to get food and probably entertainment things like board games. Yes, people still play board games. They're fun. It's fun to do with friends, right? You get your food or your board games or whatever, or your drinks, and sit around with friends and socialize. In your quarters, there would be one that would do mostly food, personal hygiene items, and clothes. In your bathroom, which you wouldn't necessarily be using for defecation and urination, but for showering or cleaning up and getting dressed and whatnot, there'd probably one that did personal hygiene and care products, towels and the like. Because, yes, they do shower still. Some people really like it. Some people really like getting frisky in the shower, too. Yep.
There's that giggle.
Yep. So it all depends on the place and the purpose.
Okay.
There's also going to be, if you're on a ship, if you're on a Silver Legion or Fed ship, you never need to make your bed. You just tell it to clean itself, and it'll make itself. If you want to change the sheets,
Yay.
you just stick that in the design console, and you can go from having gray sheets to red sheets or blue sheets or whatever you want, right? Nice pattern, you can do that. You can change
no more standing at the ironing board.
Yeah, you can have living plants and ask the ceiling to make the right kind of light so those plants can grow properly. You can set up holographic walls, so if you wanna feel like you're sleeping on a beach in Tahiti, you can.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Quarters are fully customizable. It's really fun.
I mean, you can even make it snow in your quarters if you want to sleep in the middle of a snowstorm.
Yeah, and most people in their quarters, they have a sleeping chamber, they have a bathing chamber or bathroom, and then there'll be sort of like a social chamber. And I know certainly on Silver Legion ships, these are fully customizable, and we use something that we call the TARDIS effect, meaning that you can make your quarters and your chambers any size you want without taking size from somebody else or taking space from somebody else. So if you wanted to set up your meeting chamber for a party, you could. It's not a problem. If you want to have one day a sunken hot tub in there surrounded by snowfields, you can. If the next day you want a beach, you can. You can customize like that. It's a lot of fun. There's perks to living in space.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think with Federation ships, I don't think we have the TARDIS effect, but I mean, the other ways they are just as customizable, and generally ours, especially for the crews, include a workstation, like a little private workstation area, along with the living area and the bathing area and the sleeping area, because it's often that you don't always. You don't always want to be in the middle of a huge social workrooms, or you don't have to be on the bridge, but you still have work that you need to or want to get done, and so you have your own private little workstation in your own quarters.
Okay, we have about 15 minutes left. I'm going to try and squeeze in as many of these questions as I can so we don't have, this backlog of questions for the start of next show. As a holistic health practitioner, one of the services that I offer is holistic nutritional counseling. If bodily eliminations will no longer be a reality in 4D, how will this and other physical changes alter my practice? And where can I find the knowledge or ability to be able to change my services accordingly, or will that come just naturally?
That'll probably come after. You'll probably still find that your calling is necessary. It's just that the modalities will change. Instead of talking about, for instance, foods and their chemical reactions or enzymatic reactions, we'll be talking about foods and their energy.
Yeah, and then, if you want to expand your base knowledge, start researching anything that is of interest to you in your, that is considered a holistic, homeopathic, or alternative method of healing. I mean, they use all different kinds of alternative types of healing: energetic, sound, light, smells, like aromatherapies, magnetic, anything that's energy-based, like Reiki or prana healing or, chakra healing. Basically anything you wouldn't find in the Western medical industry, it is used still extensively to this day in 4D and higher.
What they call radionics, unified field theory and stuff like that. That's other stuff that'll be useful.
Okay, next question. Well, I know the answer to this. It may seem like a silly question. A lot of people have no clue. What is the difference between a politician and a diplomat, or is there? Then I've seen comments saying that diplomats can't be trusted because they're basically politicians. Aren't they actually one and the same?
No.
Politicians usually have an agenda, have an aim. They're attempting to do stuff politically. Diplomats aren't necessarily part of a political agenda. Diplomats focus a lot on compromise, on reconciliation, on mutual learning and mutual understanding. Yeah, liaison. Politicians focus on their interests, whether those are interests are held in collective, such as in an actual representative situation, or whether those interests are their own personally, which we often see here, or whether those interests
usually act on behalf. Right, and diplomats usually act on behalf as a liaison for a large faction or a large group or whatever, right, rather than a political agenda of an individual. Okay.
Yeah, and the diplomat does not necessarily have the same personal power to force their own agenda that a politician does. Diplomats have less personal power.
Okay,
far less.
Okay. Being Canadian, I'm very glad that you're here in Canada, and I'm wondering if there is a reason that you might be able to disclose as to why you might be in Canada. Is there a particular reason? You could tell your off-world friends also that I have lots of parking behind my house, and I would be honored to have them over as my guests.
Well, I can't arrange any visits at this time. As for why Canada, well, quite simply, I was born here. There were a number of reasons that went into that decision, and yes, I was involved in the decision to be born here. It wasn't just willy-nilly slapped back in. I chose to come here. I chose to incarnate as part of this mission, and I did have a choice as to which family I would be born into. There were a number of families that were suitable. I chose this one, and I'm not regretting the decision in any means. It happens that they are in Canada, and, you know, I got to say, it suits me. I like this country. I seem to be fairly well adapted for the weather. To use a metric Celsius scale, I do best between minus 30 and about plus 15, plus 20. Once it starts getting hotter than that, I start suffering. So I like Canada. Yay, Canada. Give me my cold. I don't much like driving on ice, but I do like the cold.
I'm glad you like it. You like the cold. I'll take my my Mediterranean, weather any day over cold.
Mediterranean's not so bad. I was
like
recently in a Central American country, and it was 30 degrees Celsius at the least, and I just felt like I was going to die.
Right. I like the four seasons. I lived in Colorado that's where I was born, in Colorado, and we actually had a winter, summer, a spring, and a fall. Where, like here in Mississippi where I live, it's summer 99% of the year, and then we have a brief winter, and we just go from one to the other. So, yeah. But anyway. Okay, I've got time for just a couple more quick questions. This next one's for you, Drake. Where is Snowden, and what is the truth about the latest that's going on in Greece and Turkey?
Run that one by again real quick.
Where is Snowden, and what is the truth about the latest that is going on in Greece and Turkey?
Well, first of all, Greece has got serious internal problems and cannot be bailed out because the EU is broke and don't have the money. Turkey, we the people in that particular area decided they had enough of the BS, and they are pretty adamant about it. I'm not going to tell you where Snowden's at. I don't think anybody needs to know. When he's ready to disclose his location, he will do so. I'm not going to do it for him ahead of time. That is not going to happen. Okay?
Okay. One more question, I think, and then we'll have time for some closing remarks from all of you. The one last question is for Tanaath and Sunfire. Our universe is a light-based universe with frequencies, vibrations, density, etc. Are there universes that have a different elemental structure to our own, something that we can't even imagine? Or are they all more or less like ours with a solar system and sun and so on?
Well, there's universes you can imagine, and there's universes you can't imagine. It's all out there. All that is possible is expressed somewhere in a universe. And sometimes even in multiple timelines or alternate realities or alternate versions of the current universe. That's one of the ways in which existence gets past the paradox of all that is possible must be without requiring it to all be simultaneously together.
Okay. All right, I think that's going to just about do it for our questions for the evening. Did you, Tanaath, want to, you or either one of you ladies want to give some closing remarks?
Yeah, I'll bite. I want to reiterate, feel no fear. Don't allow yourself to be panicked or stampeded into doing something. Anybody who's got to resort to that to try to get you to do something is trying to get you to do something that ain't good for you. Remain calm, remain hopeful. Everything's going to turn out all right. And if you feel the urge to get involved, however that may be, get involved. Don't be a passenger in your own life.
Thank you very much. Okay, how about you, Sunfire?
Well, like I was saying earlier, focus on developing your instincts and your own abilities. They are like muscles. The more you use them, the stronger they will get. Try to, be truthful to yourself and to others. And, while it may seem like, we're still in the dark before the dawn, things are getting better. They're improving. And, the ETs are out there. They're helping, but they're not going to do the work for you. So, find out where you fit in and start, doing a lot of the, Tanaath calls it the self-work. It's going to help. It's going to make things a lot easier.
Thank you very, very much.
And here's the saying goes, it can't rain all the time.
Okay. Drake, did you have a closing statement?
Yeah, real simple. We're going to try to provide as much truth as we can within certain limitations. We're not going to endanger anything or interfere with any tactical operations. Until such time as you can get your head around it, I would say, open your mind just a little bit and think about it. And my usual, get her done.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight.